This is Rosen Island. What?
That was
I'm one of the winners of the Publishers Clearinghouse. Ed McMahon wants to see me right away.
I have to apologize. I thought this was the Joe Franklin studio. I'll tell you why I'm here. I happen to be in town over doing some stuff for the NBC affiliate.
That's right.
And, you know, Ed McMahon, our good friend, could not be here. Yeah. But it seems, David, that you are the $1 million winner.
Oh, my God! I've won $1 million.
Shout out to my people. This is Ed McMahon, rolling slow through the suburbs in an unmarked van. I ran the strip in the 80s, brought big fat checks to the ladies. When I showed up at their door, they would start screaming like crazy. Raked it in hand over fist, was on the VIP list. I was a verbal gunslinger, and my shots never miss. But now the bills have come due, and my credit score's whacked. So I'm hitting up the winners to get my checks back. Hi, Ed McMahon. Remember I gave you that big check? I'd like to have that check back. I'm having some stuff would help a lot. Just a little bit.
Because, you know, and I knew, you know, the difference in the situation was I knew you were making bank on those shirts. You know, I knew you were.
I did okay.
Yeah, you look like the Monopoly guy. You're driving from town to town in a black top hat and a monocle.
I remember they started bootlegging that just to quickly talk about me for a second.
I'll never join you. If you only knew the power of the dark side. When I first saw the dialogue that said, Luke, I am your father, I said to myself, he's lying. I wonder how they're going to play that lie out. Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No, I am your father.
Say what?
Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son. Luke, I am your father.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the baldest of them all?
A red door and I want to paint it black. It's the city I live in, the city of angels. Lonely as I am to the crowd.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Dose of Reality. I'm your host, Brian Staveley. And what I'm doing today is there are a lot of new people to the channel, actually, since the last time I've done one of these interviews. So if you're one of the people that's newer to the channel in the last, say, month or so, my mic is on, right? Okay. If you probably haven't seen one of these interviews yet. You've probably seen me do a lot of shows on the Mandela effect, maybe some shows on NASA and other things like that. What I also do is I do interviews called the My Awakening series, where I interview various researchers in different communities, and I just get their personal story. And for a lot of people, like, we know a lot of these people that have YouTube channels or they have websites and whatnot, but we never really heard, you know, their road to get to where they are now and stuff like that. So we're going to get into that today with Sandy Diva, and we're going to get into a lot to do about the Mandela effect as well, because that's obviously one of her big topics. Sandy, how are you?
Good. How are you today, Brian?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I've been looking forward to this a lot. For those that don't know you, Sandy, you do videos all the time on Brian McFarlane's channel.
I do.
And
Oh, go on.
You have your own YouTube channel too, correct?
I do, but there's nothing there at the moment. Hopefully there will be soon, but I don't have a computer, so it's very difficult.
Yeah. So what kind of led you into, let's start at the beginning. I know you're very highly affected by the Mandela effect. You're constantly researching it. If anybody didn't see, there was a presentation last night on Brian McFarlane's channel, and a very huge portion of that was Sandy's research, along with Teresa and Brian and other people. Real huge presentations with tons of residue you're always putting together, real lot of research. So I know you're really affected, and it means a lot to you. So where did it start for you? How did you first hear about the Mandela effect, or did somebody give you a memory test about something and then told you, hey, this is the Mandela effect, or what happened for you?
Okay, so I used to just go on YouTube at the end of it, work. I'd work and then come home and relax and just watch random stuff, think like 2014, 2015, like Looper, all those random channels just numb your mind. And I was watching something, and on the side, Shane Dawson had a video about the Mandela effect, and I'm like, because he had, I think the thumbnail had Berenstain Bears, and it said Berenstain, and I'm like, what's Berenstain? And so I clicked on it and I watched it, and that was my first introduction to what the Mandela effect was. But
it is for most of us, right? I mean, for a lot of us. For me, my very first one was Berenstain as well.
Yeah, and it just, that whole video blew my mind. Like the whole thing, everything that he said, I was like, so I immediately started looking, like, because didn't believe it. I couldn't believe that this stuff had changed. I mean, I know JCPenney ended with a Y, and not EY, and I know the Berenstain Bears was Steen, not Stain. So I started just researching it, and then I was working. I go about my normal life. I have my family, things to do, and I just forgot about it for a little bit, and then.
Then what? Then you found out about JFK?
No. I was watching a YouTuber named Joy Sparkle BS, and she doesn't do anything about the Mandela effect, but in one video, she said, guys, I need to tell you about this. I saw this and it really affected me. She's like, check out Moneybag 73. And she directed me to his channel. And then I was like, oh, there's a community on this. And that's when I was like, I started taking it seriously. And at the time when Joy did this video and I found Moneybags, I was actually in the hospital. And so I had a lot of free time. And I literally spent hours that night. I found Brian's channel. I found Scarab's channel. I found Unbiased on the Fence. I just dove deep into it, and I've never come out of it. And I constantly had to, like, when an effect was presented to me, I'd go and look to see if I could find it the way I remembered it. And that's what that started me into looking for proof that my memories were correct.
You could. Yeah. Sure enough, almost in every case, you can find that proof, and it's everywhere. It's pretty remarkable.
It is. It really is. And I'm actually grateful for it, because I would have gone nuts. I was like, I know what I'm remembering is right,
Yeah. Well, I always explain to people how the Mandela effect is not a psyop, because, you can take these things off your shelf and they have changed. You want to explain that in your own words a little bit, like how you realized that this was not just people changing things online and whatnot? Like, you want to explain that, how you feel about that, or how you would explain that to somebody?
Well, actually, the first thing that I was talking to Teresa about this, because it's Teresa's first effect. But for me, it wasn't my exact first effect. It was probably in the list of the first effects
Yeah, it's a big one. I know what it is. Yep.
But
go ahead.
My sneakers at the hospital were Skechers, and I know it had a T, and I don't know. I could physically see that it wasn't there, and then, gosh, there were other things too, and I just can't even think of them. But there were so many things that You could just tell. I mean, immediately I saw that there were problems with residue. The video of Shane Dawson, it showed a guy standing outside of J.C. Penney's. That was photoshopped. Do you know? Have you seen that image floating around where it's just?
No, I don't think I have. What, do they Photoshop it to make it look like residue? Is that what happened?
Yeah, it's a guy standing in a mall in front of the entrance to J.C. Penney's, and it just says.
Was it deceptively done? Was it deceptively done, or was it like, hey, do you remember it like this type of thing?
It was deceptive. It was very deceptive. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't like that.
That's sort of what really got me upset, because I have a degree in graphic design, so I know Photoshop inside and out, and I know what it's capable of doing, and I know how easy it is to do something like that.
Yeah.
So
me too. I come from that background as well. You know what I mean? Things I looked into, it's a lot of photo fakery and whatnot. Exactly. It's terrible that people fall for it. I mean, people are still falling for that fake Shazam video.
Yeah.
I mean,
so I just even I get fooled sometimes by some of the residue, the faked residue, I should say. They're not real residue, but there are some things it's not changed, and there's no way to deny it that all these people remember it the same way. It's not like we all remember different things. We remember the exact same thing. And even now, we're finding like groups of people remembering different things, but they're still all remembering the same thing. Just you may remember, like we last night on the show, Toucan Sam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, some of them remember how it is now, which is with the pink stripe and the feather. Some remember the red and orange, and some remember blue or another color in there. But it's still multiple people remembering the blue, multiple people remembering the red and orange, and then multiple people remembering how it is now, because that's how it is.
But also the overwhelming majority of the split people that don't remember it the way it is now, right? The people, overwhelming majority, whether they remember blue, green, or orange, right? We all remember that there was no pink as well.
Exactly.
In unison, we all remember that there was not this one random color. We all agree on that.
It doesn't add up to misremembering to me. See,
no, absolutely not.
By nature, I'm a skeptic. I need proof. I will search for it. I will take both sides of every. If someone says one thing, I'm going to purposely go look at the other argument. I won't just take one side as fact. It's just not the way my brain works.
That's the real definition of a skeptic. Unfortunately, these people that think they're skeptics and skeptical of the Mandela effect aren't actually skeptical of anything, and they just believe what's being fed to them.
Exactly. Or they don't even want to look into it. So they just
they don't
go
even
by
want
their own mind, and that's not being skeptical at all.
Well, they completely shut down, Sandy, because you know how it is, especially when, and we're going to talk about different categories of Mandela effects and whatnot as we get, further into your story. But, like things like, say, the Bible changes and whatnot. I mean, these people will completely shut down because, either the word of God can't change, or this can't be true because of what they think reality is. But to be honest, the rules of reality that they were given are completely false. We don't know what this reality is. You don't know. I don't know. People that have been researching this longer than us, they don't know. We have theories, but it's clearly not what's been presented. So people to just write it off because, oh, well, that can't happen. Things can't just, change like that are in the past, so things can't change in my house. Well, put aside the cognitive dissonance for a minute and just go check. Just prove us wrong and go check. Take out your Star Wars and show us how C-3PO is still all gold. You know what I mean? Or take out your Snow White and show us how she still says mirror, mirror, and then, hey, we'll shut up. But you can't do that. But if you know that that's a problem for you to present that to us, well, then you should take a look at yourself, because now you're in denial to protect something and you don't even know what you're protecting.
I think it's just their own minds. I think they're protecting their minds because I don't know if they can handle realizing that that something's happening that by all laws of physics should not be happening. And going back to the Bible changes, I'm Catholic. I was raised Catholic, but I'm not like super duper religious. I don't read the Bible. A lot of Catholics, I don't think, read the Bible. I don't know what it is, but I went to Catholic school. It was taught to us. Most of the Bible I know is from what's read to me in sermons in church, in the homilies and things like that. And when people say, "Oh, the Word of God is changing," again, also from a graphics point of view, from going to school for graphic design, I understand it's the Word of God. It's the Bible. It's symbolic for many people, but it's a book that's printed by humans in a publisher, and it can be changed just like any other book on a library shelf. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
It's just
Exactly,
printed paper.
of course. But
And
a lot of times, Sandy, you can't come at them like that at all. You just have to let them, you have to let people believe what they want as far as, and I put in quotations, the word of God. So whether you think it's the word of God or the word of man, the fact is that paper is still changing.
Exactly. And that's why I don't understand why a priest would not even look at it. Like, they'd just be like, no, it hasn't changed. It's always been like that. It's like, please just look at it. It can change. It has changed. You need to see this. Like, I brought up the Lion Chalet with the Lamb to my mom.
Yeah.
And I said to her, she said, yeah, that's what it is. And then I said to her, well, please go look, because, and she's friends with the priest in the church. She works at our church. And she said, oh, the Bible says that, how did she word it? When I told her that the wolf shall dwell with the lamb is what's in the book now.
Did she go into, she went into metaphor mode?
Sort of. She didn't deny that it was different, but she said that, oh, the lamb lays with a lot of animals in the Bible. Like, she tried to make an excuse that, like, oh, I'm sure the lion lays with the lamb is somewhere in there, and you're just remembering the wrong verse. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, that's what she was trying to. But she's waking up to it now.
Well, that's good that she's waking up to it now. It's crazy because, like, I know you've seen it, I'm sure. And I put a portion of it in my Lion and Lamb video. I don't know if you've seen mine, but I know you've seen this woman's video, Child of Light's video, where she calls the pastor at the church, and he goes on how he's, first he goes on how he's been the head pastor there for 30 years, and she asks him, what's the animal that lies with the lamb in Isaiah 11:6, and he says the lion, and he's dead sure of it. But then when he goes and gets his Bible, he takes that update. Like, you know what I mean? When I say take that update, people, I don't literally mean like you're plugged into something, but whatever it is that's happening, I think it's a consciousness thing. Whatever it is that's happening, or a frequency, like they just take that update and they completely doubt everything that just came out of their mouth, and they start backtracking, and then everything that they said wasn't in the Bible. That's the crazy part. Like, when I tell people, oh, Act 5:30, now Jesus is hanging in a tree, or I say to people, planets are in the Bible, and planets were never in the Bible before in the King James. People used to always use that argument in communities that I'm in. Oh, there's no planets in the Bible. Well, now they're in there. So when I tell them, no, it's not in there, if they do go and check, which most won't, but if they do go and check, they'll come back and tell me how planets is a metaphor for constellations. And I'll be like, listen, I know that in the other versions it's constellations, but you just sat here and yelled at me and told me how it's not in there, but now it is.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean by the update. I've seen it many times. It's crazy. That's how it's either, whether you want to call it an update, a consciousness shift, something happens where, or it could just be a conscious choice on their part that they cannot face the fact that it's not what they expected it to be. And I think that's in a lot of cases, that's what it is. That people just can't handle that something's happening that can't be physically explained, that can't be explained by science. It just can't be explained. And I think that's just their reaction to it.
Yeah, and the thing I tell people about the Mandela effect, though, and because you know how much it's accelerated and all the changes that we've seen, and even changes in other categories too. We're not just talking media and stuff, guys. We're talking about huge landmarks, animals, all types of stuff, geography, anatomy. We're going to get into all of that. But, like, if you can try and ignore this, but if you close your eyes to it for long enough, you're going to wake up one day and the whole world is going to be different. It's like, and I'm being literal. Like, I'm dead serious.
Yeah. It already is. Every day we find new stuff. Every day. And I really think this has been going on for years, decades, forever. Yeah.
I think it's been going on thousands of years. We've done shows linking it back to, all the way back to the Sumerians, and Paul's done a ton of research on that. And I know other people like Cynthia Sulason and stuff have wrote on it about the Hopi Indians and whatnot. And there are other people. People think that. Let's talk about one of the biggest ones real quick, because people think that this thing started because of CERN being turned on, and we can talk about theories later, and that's not what I believe. But, this started way before that. Even some of the bigger ones, like Ed McMahon, people were having that so-called mismemory, and there were these articles, these Mandela effect disinformation articles, well, in the early 2000s. You know what I mean? Like, this stuff was happening. It wasn't happening just in like 2015, 2016. That's when it exploded on YouTube.
Right. I agree. I mean, I'm honestly, my theory keeps changing. I originally, I think CERN may have something to do with it, but like I said, this has been going on. I think this has been going on a long time. And as a matter of fact, yesterday in the chat of the premiere on Brian's show, one of the listeners who I'm going to say hi to now, I don't know if they're here, Rail and Herman, they're one of our younger listeners. I mean, they're a little bit younger or a little bit older than my stepson. So in their teens.
What are we talking? Teenager? Okay.
Teenager, yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
So they were saying Toucan Sam's always had a pink stripe. And my theory is, now it doesn't fit for everybody, because there was also another person who's older. That's why I'm not going to mention, because I'm going to mention the age instead. In their 50s and 60s. Yeah. But that also was not affected by some of the effects. But I think some effects, you know how they say some of us shift at different times and that things change for people at different times? I think that's true in some cases. But I also think that some things changed so long ago that they're changed for all of us if we were around before the change happened. So let's pretend, we'll use Toucan Sam as an example. Let's pretend Toucan Sam changed in 1999. So someone born in 2003, 4 years old, wouldn't have noticed a change because they were too young to remember it. Do you know what I'm saying? But anyone born in the 80s or earlier would remember it the way it was.
Well, just like right now, right now, for instance, say in another 3-4 years down the road, you're going to start seeing videos with little kids singing The Wolf and the Lamb instead of The Lion and the Lamb, because they never knew The Lion and the Lamb. So in another 10 years, they might be Mandela affected by a bunch of them, but to them it's always been the wolf because it was the wolf a few years before they were born, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. So there are some things that we shift, that we wake up to at different times, but I think there's different types. Let me put it this way. I think there's different types of effects that flip-flop. People can wake up to at different times, because there are definitely effects that flip-flops, like Flintstones, the Houston
Chuck
we've had, or
Cheese.
we have a problem, Chuck E. Cheese.
Houston.
Right? Yes.
Well, those are huge. I want you to touch on that too, but keep going. But let's talk about flip-flops too when you're done your point here.
Okay, and then there's effects that I think just change, and I think they changed at certain points in our timeline. And like I said, I'm starting to believe that, and then people can still wake up them if the theory that the timelines merging is actually what's happening. That would also make sense that someone older wouldn't be affected by a fixed in time ME. I hope I'm making sense.
No, that makes sense, because I know, and I'll try not to take up too much time with my theory, but because people hear it here a lot. But I mean, so there are people that are going to hear this show that haven't, and it fits very nicely with that, because my idea is if it's like timelines. First of all, Sandy, it's not two. I think you would agree with whatever it is more than 1, 2, 3, 4 realities. There's a whole bunch, because some of these things, if it is indeed multiple timelines, there would have to be so many. Because think of the statue, for instance. It's got like 10 different, you know what I mean, and Statue of Liberty and all these changes.
Yes.
I think, to me, it's more. I'll tell you what I don't think it can be. Right. First, you already know I don't think it's CERN for the reasons I think, and I don't need to beat a dead horse with that.
Right.
But I also don't think that it's time travel, because if it was somebody going back in time and changing an event, how would we have all this residue? Right. And I don't think me and you have a shift or a timeline jump where people say, oh, that's the old Earth, now we're on the new Earth. Well, then how do you explain incremental changes? That wouldn't fit that, because all the changes would have to happen at once with that shift. And even though you and I are highly affected, Sandy, we're not going to agree on 100% of things that we're familiar with even. Maybe we'll agree on 80, 90%. How do we not agree on the other 20% if we're doing a shift or we're jumping to a different timeline? So for me, it's more like a frequency or a consciousness kind of picture it as coming in as waves around us, and it permeates through different people at different times. And some people that have that cognitive dissonance up so thick have a barrier where it just doesn't get through. But we're all in this reality. It's constantly permeating through all of us. And I still think everybody is affected. And people can say, no, Brian, not everybody is affected. But okay, well, ask them who did checks for Publishers Clearinghouse. And everybody's going to say Ed McMahon.
Right.
Hands down. Everybody.
I agree.
Whether they deny it or not, and whether the other ones they don't seem to be affected by.
Yeah, it may not be Ed McMahon. It may be that the striped hat on Uncle Sam but something. There will be something that everyone.
There'll be at least several that'll get even the most so-called skeptical people, and they still might not admit it's a Mandela effect or whatnot. But when I've run polls about Ed McMahon or C-3PO, the percentage, and I don't even put them in Mandela effect groups on purpose, just to get a more general view on my Facebook page. I did a C-3PO one where I put the silver leg next to the gold leg, asked people what they remember. It was like 60 votes to 2. And the 2 votes are probably people actually being dishonest, in my personal opinion. But even if it wasn't, it was 60 to 2. Remembering it the way it never was. How can 60 people all remember it the way it never was compared to 2 that remember it the way it is?
And how can we have images of the actor getting dressed in an all gold costume?
Exactly.
It just doesn't
exactly.
make sense.
And this, out of all of them, I mean, C-3PO might have the most residue. I mean, there's just so much. The toys, all the pictures with him next to George Lucas and Mark Hamill, like you said. Mark Hamill when he used to have one L on his name. I mean, Star Wars is just, and things like Star Wars and The Wizard of Oz, Sandy, like, don't you think those are great tools to show people if you can at least get them to look like, hey, if you would have looked when I told you about Darth Vader or C-3PO, well, then you would have seen R2-D2 get these wires. You would have seen this, that, and the other thing. If you would have looked when I told you about the Scarecrow with the gun, well, you would have seen 6 months later that he got a wrench. How do you deny it at that point? Because you just looked at the movie.
Exactly. And that's why I actually appreciate that people like Shane Dawson have made videos on this, because they can reach those people that if we were talking to them, they would just shut us down. But Shane Dawson is just touching on it as like a fad, so they actually listen to it. And I think they actually wake up more people than we realize, because they're more open to the message from them.
Of course they do. I've learned this in other communities as well. If you get these kind of mainstreamish type of channels, it's always good to get them talking about you, because if not, we're talking in an effing echo chamber for the most part. Yes. We need to get a little permeation into those channels. Even if they mock us a little bit or they call it a psyop, they're still getting people to look at Mirror Mirror and think about it. And everybody knows it was always Mirror Mirror, not Magic Mirror. So even if 8 out of 10 people still call it a psyop after that, oh no, I just must have been misremembering, there's still going to be 1 or 2 people out of that 10 that are going to be like, there's no way. It was always Mirror Mirror. You're not going to tell me any different.
Well, can I ask you something about that?
Yeah.
Did you ever hear about the second effect in that I brought up on the show?
Well, at the end of that line, how instead of who's the fairest of them all, who's the fairest one of all one?
Yeah, that's been.
That's what we talked about. I've mentioned it. Yeah, I've mentioned it before. I heard of it, and I don't know if he got it from you, a friend of ours. Cosmic Killjoy told me about that one, like back in the summertime. I don't know if he got it from you, or he got it from himself, but
it's possible.
Yeah, I know about that one.
Not the summertime. I don't know. I don't know if he got it from me. I mean, I was commenting it on videos that were talking about Magic Mirror and Mirror Mirror, and I had it on Twitter, but I don't know if he got it directly from me or not. But that
people miss that. So it's not just Mirror Mirror on the wall changing the Magic Mirror. The end of that.
What I'm saying is, people will talk about that effect with the other effect right in front of them. They don't even notice it, and it blows my mind.
Well, Sandy, that's why I wanted to have you on. Like I said in the show description, you have a really keen eye for these. There's a lot of people out here in the Mandela Effect community all doing their thing. Like I'm doing these shows, other people digging up residue, other people are writing blogs or Twitter or whatever the sites are. But you have like you don't just dig for residue, which you do, but you have an eye for just picking things out. Like the stuff you showed last night with a lot of the merging letters and stuff. And we know that there's tons of this going on. But you have an eye, like it just jumps right out at you, doesn't it?
It does. The toucan Sam thing I found because Teresa was showing me the store brand of Fruit Loops, which is spelled fruit. It was like Fruit O's or whatever it was, right next to the Fruit Loops box with the OOT. And I said, when did he get a pink beak? So it was like that's the first thing I see. And there are a few people in the community that blow my mind that way too. Nathaniel Winters Hebert.
Oh, he's the man.
Yeah, he sees things that I don't see too. Like it's crazy. I think all of us are meant to see different things.
I think all of us were meant to meet up on here and share too, and that's a big thing with the community. Is people should be a little less. And granted, if you go and dig something up like and spend a lot of time digging up into something and finding specific Mandela effects, of course people are going to give you credit. But like when we're all explaining these big, huge things like Star Wars or Back to the Future, like people need to be less worried about all of that and just be like, let's all share this, let's all pass this around, and let's wake everybody up to this. That's my personal opinion.
I completely agree. And I noticed some channels, they're straying away from the effects, and for them that's fine. Some people have actually expressed that they don't think the effects are as important as to why it's happening. And I actually disagree with that.
How well, you can prove the effects. They can't prove how it's happening.
That's the thing. I kind of disagree. I mean, I don't think it's bad to talk about why. Definitely put out the theories. I just don't know if we'll ever be able to prove why this is happening. And this is where my, analytical, skeptical side comes in. But the effects... Well, the effects wake people up, and the more of us who see this, the stronger we are. And I don't know. I still think the effects are very important because all it takes is one effect. Another Teresa example. I hope she doesn't mind me talking about this, but her boss didn't see he never saw the Mandela effect, but one effect is just recently that Teresa found woke him up, I guess. I don't know if he's fully awake now, but he sees that change. So someone like my mom constantly fought it, I guess you could say. But when I brought up Fruit of the Loom having the cornucopia, she insisted it had a cornucopia. That's what started waking her up to it, where she stopped fighting me as much. It could take years sometimes for someone to finally admit something's happening. And I think the changes are really important because you never know. It could be that person even with all the thousands of effects that are out there, they may not have found the one yet that would wake them up. So I think the effects are just as important today as they were when Berenstain Bears first was found.
I personally talk about both. I talk about what I think the cause is, and I talk about the effects. But I definitely think documenting and showing the new effects is more important in my mind. But I do talk about both. But I also do like 7 shows a week now, so of course I'm going to have time to talk about both. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
To think it's not important and just put all the new. We're just going to ignore all the new changes. That sounds crazy to me. We absolutely need to document these down. Back a little in the beginning, like for me, right? It was Berenstain and JFK. Those are the first 2 really big ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, and I know for a lot of people around that time, and not for everybody. Everybody's different, but a lot of people, those are the first 2 huge ones. But those currently aren't my top ones. My top one is, and I won't elaborate on my top ones, but I'm just going to run them down real quick. My top number 1 is Black Tom Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island. And my second is South America, the Panama Canal. Then C-3PO, then Ed McMahon, then Mira Mira, JFK, Field of Dreams, some other big ones like that. What currently are your biggest, what are your top 5 and why?
Doc Martens, definitely. Skechers,
Because those are
JCPenney.
personal to you because you used to wear them a lot.
Oh God, all the time. I had so many pairs, and I remember having this is for my birthday. Before I only had the knockoffs before, and then this was back in high school. I said to my mom and my stepdad, make sure that it has 2 A's. See, that's the thing. It's a double effect. Some people only remember the first part of Doc Martens effect, where it's now Dr. Martens, and the doctor, I remember being Doc. It was never DR period. So there's that one part of the effect. But for some people, including myself, Martens was MAA with like the little, I don't know, please forgive me, I don't know what they're called. They're the 2 dots on top. If anyone in the chat knows what they're called, the 2 dots on top of a letter.
You know what you're talking about. You see them over like German letters and shit.
Right. And Martens is a German name. And I specifically remember telling them, make sure it's got the 2 A's so that you know that they're real, so they didn't end up buying a knockoff. It's probably my birthday or Christmas. I can't remember, but they were going to get them for me for my birthday or Christmas. And I asked my stepdad why it was spelled like that. And he explained to me, he's like, well, some countries like Germany, that's how they use it to make the sound.
Umlaut.
Right.
Barris said it's called a UMLAUT, an umlaut.
Umlaut. Thank you, Barris. So for me, it was always like that. So that's a big one for me because I had that anchor memory of talking to my parents about the shoes. And again, Skechers. I have Skechers to this day. I always wear Skechers. I know there was a T. There was a big scandal with the Skechers with the shoes that were like rounded at the bottom. So I was focused on them for a lot of things. And I don't know, JCPenney, that was the store we went to. I drove past it every day.
Oh, JCPenney. Have you seen it flip flop, or was it just one and then the other for you?
No, it was always just penny, like money, penny.
Yeah,
and then
now with the extra E in there.
And Shane Dawson's video made me realize it was EY. And then Black Tom, definitely. There was never.
That's my number one, baby. Black Tom, number one.
Yeah, because I mean, the reason why 9/11. I mean, besides the fact that was horrible and so many people died, that was the first attack on U.S. soil. Like that's what made it.
They said Pearl Harbor was the first, and 9/11 was the second.
I mean, yeah.
That eliminates
Pearl Harbor, right?
Black Tom. That leaves Black Tom totally off the list.
And there's also Japanese bombings in Washington or Oregon now.
Oregon, they hit Oregon. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. And then also, I'm with you on the Panama Canal. It went east to west, not north to south. That is so wrong to me.
Oh, I can't even look at it. And South America is about 1,000 miles over to the east. It's like 1,000 miles off to the right. I did a video on geography, and my channel, it's getting bigger now, but it only had like 1,000 subs a month ago. And when I did my geography video, and that video's got almost 50,000 views now, because people are really, really affected by the geography ones. And I think that's something important, and people need to understand. It doesn't matter what you think about the shape of the earth in this conversation, whether you think the earth's a globe, it's a flat earth, it's a concave earth, it's a whatever you think. The layout of the land on any model has completely changed from what it was. And people, Sandy, they always like these types of things. They'll, just like they do with the music, people can re-release it. People make maps, and maps of projections. But again, go and pull out your map from 30 years ago, and it's going to reflect these same changes.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I actually thought it was projections at one point because I misunderstood what they were saying. They were saying, oh, this is huge and this is small. And I'm like, no, it's because it's to show the curvature of the earth. But then someone said, oh, so South America was 1,000 miles east. And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? So sometimes people don't understand what you're saying until they actually listen to what you're saying. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, I know. You should see the comment section on that video.
Yeah.
I literally, as far as YouTube goes, I literally do not, and I will not ever answer the negative comments because, first of all, there's no point. If they want my opinion, they just saw my video. and most of them are just trolling me. And second of all, with all the other comments, I just don't have time, and I'm not feeding the trolls. So.
No, I don't blame you. I mean, it's nice enough that you actually answer. There are people that don't even answer the good comments, so it's okay. But the one of the things that really gets me is Italy. I mean, I'm Italian. In school, in like grade school, we would, have to do reports on our nationalities and things like that. Now you can't even do that stuff. But Italy, the boot was much thicker. It wasn't. It's like a high heel now. It's so thin.
It's huge.
And it was thicker. It was like an actual boot, like more like a boot that you like.
Yeah.
Oh, what am I trying to say? Like the Mayflower, what they wore on the Mayflower. Like it was a thick boot. And now it's this tiny, thin thing. And my dad's from Sicily. Sicily's butted right up against it. Like you could walk over to Italy.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy how now, because I used to always describe it to people and know it as the boot, but it was like a standing boot. Now it looks like it's cocked back 45 degrees getting ready to kick the game-winning fucking field goal.
Yes, that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like Sicily's a ball it's about to kick. It's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, the geography ones are huge.
Yeah, they are. They not. I'm not affected by all of them. Like
What about Cuba? How about Cuba? That's a huge one.
The size of Cuba is larger.
Yes.
But for me, it's
huge.
always
I'm
been.
not
Oh, go on.
Go ahead. No, I know what you're gonna say. I agree. I'm not so sure about the location. You say it's always been there for you, right? The location.
Yes, I went to Key West and they have a marker that says 90 miles to Cuba, and 90 miles is not a lot in like distance wise. On a map, it would look very, 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 very close. So for me, the location's correct, but it's much, much bigger, much longer than it used to be.
It's as big as Florida now. It's ridiculous, dude. It's a tiny island.
Yeah.
Tiny island. You know what I mean?
I completely agree
what
with
else?
you.
What else are some of your hugest ones?
Oh God, there's so many. There's so many. Just to
okay.
My
what
head's
do you
swimming.
use? What do you like when my biggest one, like I said, is Black Tom, and the reason for that, Black Tom Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, is because of all my research into 9/11. Now, not only, as everybody in the Mandela Effect community would probably agree, how would this Black Tom happen and we would never hear about it all the years of school, all the media, and then think when you watch the events that unfold on September 11th and all the stuff after, how is it never mentioned? Whatever your theories on these events are, in this case, doesn't matter. The fact is that the government and the media would push the patriotism on you very hard. And with this event happening in New York, okay, New Jersey, New York, and being down the street from where 9/11 was, to think it was never mentioned. And it was the bombing of the statue. It wasn't specifically they were bombing the Statue of Liberty, but it got damaged from the bombing. And it's supposedly the symbol of freedom for this country, and it's not mentioned. For me, that's why it's my number one, but I don't use that as my number maybe to go at people with. I'll come with like Ed McMahon as my go-to, or C-3PO, or Mira. Like, what's your go-to to go to the general people who are usually not too aware of these types of things, and you just want to hit them with some sort of something that you know is going to resonate? What do you go with?
The striped hat. Uncle Sam's striped hat. Yeah, 100%. I mean, the 1984 U.S. Olympics, it was held in the U.S. The mascot has a striped hat. It's an eagle with an Uncle Sam outfit on with a striped hat. I mean, how anyone could not remember the striped hat and just think he always had a white hat blows my mind. That's a huge one for me. And going back to your Uncle Tom, Statue of Liberty bomb, Uncle Tom. I was saying Uncle Sam and Uncle Tom.
Now
my God.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Black
Tom?
Oh
my God. Mixing up Uncle Sam with Black Tom. Okay, so anyway, going back. I'm from New Jersey. You would think that they would have taught that to us at least. You know what I'm saying? It's local. It's local history. That would be like us not learning about the Liberty Bell. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand. And for us, like, we talked about the Statue of Liberty a lot. A lot of people, this is something they debate in the Mandela community that they don't remember. But for me, it was huge in our area. New York and New Jersey fighting over the Statue of Liberty, who owned that. And it was actually in New Jersey waters. And technically the Statue of Liberty is New Jersey
Mm-hmm.
because it's in our waters. But I don't remember. I see. If I don't remember something, I will come out and tell you. The fact that people say that we're misremembering something. No, I'm going to tell you if I don't remember. I don't remember for a fact, but I think we gave it to New York. I think that's what ended the fighting over it. Is we said, okay, you know what, you can have it. But we should have learned about the bombing. We should have learned about the Statue of Liberty being damaged, especially living in New Jersey. And like I live in Philly now, no one knows about this. That's insane to me. That's huge. The Statue of Liberty,
People
you
living
cannot
in
go
New
to the
Jersey
torch.
never even heard. People living in New Jersey never even heard of effing Liberty Island till a couple of years ago.
Exactly. That's another thing.
As a whole, the whole island wasn't even there. The whole island wasn't even there. And people say, "Oh, islands can change name." No, the Ellis Island still exists.
See, that's where at one time I said no. Ellis Island is where they came in. My family emigrated through Ellis Island in the very early 1900s, and but what I didn't realize was there's two islands. I remember one. So the Statue of Liberty and the Immigration Center were on Ellis Island for me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that's what I wasn't getting.
No, I know. It's hard to wrap your head around it sometimes because, again, as you're trying to wrap your head around this before you accept that this is what keeps happening, you're applying those rules of reality to it. Even if you may know, like for me, I don't believe anything that comes from mainstream science and what these rules they give us are. But the fact that you've had those rules for so long and this is something like supernaturally changing, how can the statue have never been where I always remember it? That can't happen. So here's the explanation. And even if the explanation doesn't make 100% sense, you're going to go with it for a little while because the Mandela effect can't be true.
Right. Like how can there be one island? How can there be two islands when I remember one? New Jersey was fighting over the one island. They weren't fighting over two. They were fighting over one. You see what I'm saying? So it didn't make sense. It was very hard for me to. There are certain things because of proximity that I have a hard time accepting, if that makes sense.
Have you had any personal changes like some people have, like buildings just popping up out of nowhere in your city, these types of things?
There's only one. Thankfully, I haven't seen anything like that here. And honestly, Philadelphia is like there's cranes everywhere. There's construction everywhere. So you can't even like be sure whether it was built because they build things fast now. But there is one statue that I do not remember. It was there since 1992. The main road that goes along the Delaware River. Delaware River, I don't know if in case I'm assuming there's people here that aren't just from this area. The Delaware River separates New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And along the Delaware River is Delaware Avenue / Columbus Boulevard. It's got two names. Okay. And in 1992, they put up a statue for Christopher Columbus. It's not a statue of Columbus. It's actually this weird looking monolith, think like the Washington Monument. It's kind of weird looking. I don't even remember that going up. There should have been like a celebration for it, something like that. I remember nothing. Yeah, it's just a statue on the riverfront. I don't remember them putting it up. I don't remember anything about it. It's strange looking. And for people who are in Teresa's group, I'll put it in the group. And I guess if Brian's still here, I think Brian's driving right now.
I think he's still here. I just seen him in the chat a minute ago. He actually wrote, "My mom went up to the Statue of Liberty torch with her boyfriend back in the 70s.
There we go. See, like that. How can people have those memories? But
yeah, and I've talked to several people who have. Several.
I mean, I don't know. Can you present right now? Because I can even show you the statue if you want to see it. Because I have a picture of it.
Send it to me on Facebook. That's the safe way for me to screen share. So send me it in my Facebook inbox, and just let me know when it's there, and I'll run the screen share and present it.
Because that's just the easiest way to describe. I can't even describe the statue. It's just easier to show it, you know. But that's really the only effect locally that I could say, because and honestly, they say like you don't notice stuff because you're seeing it every day, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
is
there anything around you that you notice? Now I'm interviewing you.
No. That's good. I want to do a little back and forth because it makes for a really good show. Hang on, I'm just trying to get up my Facebook. Okay, just send it to my inbox when you're ready, and then I'll screen share. For me, there's a company here. There's actually two really big. There's actually a really huge change for me that happened that I've actually put off making a video about, and I'll actually just talk about it right now since you asked, Sandy.
Mm-hmm.
The crazy part is too, Sandy. I was gonna do a video on this finally. This happened months ago. I think the only people I told were Paul, Gloria, and Nathaniel. I don't think I told anybody else. And I was gonna finally have the courage, because you know how sometimes, I don't know, maybe you don't know, but a lot of people in the community might feel me. If you have like a personal one, it kind of hits you a little different than if Star Wars changes. It does, because it's like part of your life. You know what I mean? It's really crazy. And my neighborhood changed its name. For me, I know some people might watch this and disagree, but this neighborhood was always called Centerville. Everybody called it Centerville. I dug up so much residue on it first of all, just from every conversation I've ever had with anybody that's from Lowell. It's Centerville, okay?
Okay.
I dug up so many pictures of friends of mine, with posting pictures of their kids' Little League and everything. And like somebody will post it, hey, Centerville All-Stars. But the name of the neighborhood now is Centralville. Centralville. Nobody's ever said Centralville. And on posts where people are posting pictures of the kids' uniforms in Little League, they're writing Centerville, congratulations to the Centerville Red Sox. And in the uniform, it says Central on it. And the way this happened to me, I happened to notice this, was my boss, who knows nothing of the Mandela effect, except for lately I've been telling him, hey, when you say this, he's always quoting, the Fantasy Island quote, boss the plane.
Yes.
How it changed. Well, he's always saying it the old way. I'm like, that was never said. He's like, what are you talking about? So I get into it. One day, and he's from Lowell, the city I'm from, our whole life. One day we're coming out of Top Donut. It's like Dunkin' Donuts. Okay, we're coming out of the donut shop, and we're in the drive-thru. We come around, and there's a new sign for the park across the street. And I didn't see it yet. I had my head down. I was looking in my bag to make sure my bagel was there and everything. And I hear him talking real confused. And he goes, Centralville. I said, what the fuck are you talking about? Centralville? What is that? He's like, look. He's like, I never knew it was spelled that way. And then it just hit me right away. Right away when somebody says that, you know how it is. And then it's the name of our neighborhood. Like, dude, how do we both have never seen Centralville? It's never been Centralville. And then if you go and look, I've dug up documents from City Hall, plans to revise the neighborhood of Centerville. And just like with other Mandela effects, Sandy, you know how it is. The headline will show the old reality, but all the text below will show the new reality in the same article. And it did that all throughout it. And then if you go and look on sites like Zillow and these other sites that put real estate and people put their homes on the market, all these people that lived in this neighborhood for years put up all their houses and listed it in the Centerville neighborhood of Drake. And Derek Lemire, he's in the chat. He says, what, for real, bro? It was always Centerville. He lives down the street. Derek, you don't live in Centerville anymore, bro. You never have. It's Centralville. Central. The word central and center, sure, you're going to tell me it's a metaphor and they mean the same thing. Well, F you, because they don't sound the same. They're not spelled nearly the same. Centerville and Centralville are not the same.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you, I'm curious, have you gone into Facebook? You know how you can tag your location? Is there a Centerville? Is there a Centerville?
No, it's tagging me in Centralville right now. I am positive before it tagged me in Centerville. And then anytime I look up conversations on Facebook or Twitter, you know how you can look up conversations. And if you look for Centerville versus Centralville, I mean, all the regular conversations people have are Centerville. And then if it's an official posting, like from the newspaper or whatever, an article that has to do with the city, it'll be Central, the new way, because, it's something official. There's literally advertisements for that park with the monument. It's called, the website is Centerville Memorial Park, Centerville. And then the actual headstone has changed, just like Warner Von Braun's headstone changed and all this. The headstone says Centralville on it. It's made out of effing stone. They didn't change it overnight. It changed by itself.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
So that's a big personal one I had, and I haven't really told anybody about that yet. I did mention it, I think, once. I never got into detail. And then the crazy part, Sandy, is I went to go present this the other day, you know how I did a couple music ones lately, like I did the Jewel Change, and I did the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I did the Rolling Stones last night, but I was going to do one on the neighborhood, and when I went to do research on it a couple days ago, half of my residue had changed, and it now says Centerville. Not all of it, but about half of it. So I have to, re-prepare for that show. I'm still going to do it and make it one of my short videos, but half of my residue has now changed. There's all these you know how for different businesses they have these sites like, is it Foursquare or whatever those sites are where, they rate restaurants and stuff?
Yes.
There's the businesses called the Centerville Social Club and whatnot. Now the lettering on the building has changed now. It says Centralville, but the websites and the ratings that people write, Centerville, Centerville, Centerville.
That's how it was with the Smoky Mountains. The actual addresses and stuff say Smoky, SONKY, but the websites, the reviews, everything else says KEY. So the same thing happened there. But that's a big effect to happen where you live. You know what I'm saying? That's really
it's
big.
Huge. It's huge. And if you ask Gloria and Paul, they kept telling me, like, you got to get this video out. You got to get this video out. And honestly, like, as highly as affected as I am, like you and like Brian and Moneybags and all types of other people that are really, really highly affected, for some reason, that's like hit me hard. Like, it was hard for me to come out with it. And then I know I'm going to have to deal with all the deniers once I put it up on my Facebook page. All these, but the funny thing is I grabbed screenshots of so many of them calling it Centerville. So when they come out and say, oh, you're crazy with this Mandela effect shit, it's always been Centralville, you idiot. We live here. Boom. Hopefully some of the people that have screen grabs of are going to say it, because I'm going to drop the screen grabs right on them. People in my own house that don't believe in the Mandela effect, I looked at their conversations. Centerville, Centerville, Centerville. We live in Centerville. They just bought this house. They just bought this house and sold another house in the last couple of years in Centerville, but it's Centralville.
Oh my gosh! But see, they'll still they'll say, "Oh, you changed it." Like if you show them proof that they said it, they'll try to say that you photoshopped it, or what I'm saying. They're still gonna find.
Oh,
ways.
it's crazy! Like, I need to do that. Why would I do that? Why would I be dishonest like that? I'm not like that. I'm just trying to share our experience with people.
I agree. I know.
Sandy, can we take a break? A 5-minute break?
Absolutely.
I gotta go to the bathroom. Take a 5-minute bathroom break. Go to get a drink or whatever if you need to. How's your phone doing? If you need to plug it in for 5 minutes, plug it in.
I'll do that. I'm at 79%, so I will plug it in for 5 minutes. Yes.
All right, everybody, quick 5-minute break. You're going to hear my Mandela Effect rap song, followed by a song from Quantum Truth about the Mandela Effect. And we'll be back in 5 or 6 minutes. So stick with us, guys. Don't go anywhere. You'll listen to Dose of Reality, Brian Staveley, Sandy Diva, My Awakening, episode 20. A lot more Mandela Effect talk to come. Stick with us. All right, guys? Thank you. I know I'm trying to get the screen share. Not the smoothest transition with Google Hangouts.
It's okay.
All right, everybody. We'll be right back.
Did you know your reality is being put to the test? The Panama Canal no longer runs east and west. Things you are sure happened never did in this reality. The crunchy cereal with the captain now has an apostrophe. Somehow changed for many folks. Shit, that punctuation now just showed up on different strokes. The shit can't be attributed to only digital content. Take a look at South America. They moved the whole fucking continent. Even pop in your copy of Star Wars. It could be 30 years old. Shit went as C-3PO, not all fucking gold. Maybe you haven't noticed the changes yet. Open your eyes, trust your senses, and you realize the Mandela effect. I'm from the reality where the youngest Jackson was a girl. Volkswagen logo had no line and Ford had no curl. The Black Tom attack we didn't learn of in school. It was always Who Will Save Your Soul sung by Jewel. The music ones really stand out to me. It's no longer I want to paint it black in this reality. People writing it off as bad memory. Even with Superman, Chris Reeves running your trap, dismissing it is one of my pet peeves. Everything I research, people say it's a psyop. Even simple things like pointing out the towers can't collapse from the top. Somehow we are experiencing merging timelines. For more research, check out my site, The Real News Online. I started noticing changes in like 2014. It was JFK, the six-seater, that seemed so obscene. Many people will try and call me a loon. But hold up, wait, they even changed the spelling of Looney Tunes? Let these thoughts sink deep into ya. How could you ever miss the Great Wall of India? The Statue of Liberty was on Ellis Island. Go search there for it now, and you won't find it. It's time for you to wake up. Hello, Clarice. In this reality, the Monopoly guy never had the eyepiece. Some of these changes I don't see how you can dispute. For me, it was always the Smithsonian Institute. Institution? Well, to my ears, that's simply noise pollution. For me, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. The human anatomy changes bug me out, but really, they should. As contrived as they may be, it was always daylight savings time and Halley's Comet for me. Our poor neighbors up north are swallowed by the sea. Some of these geography changes are so obvious to me. You might think, Brian, you went too far. I'll say, since when is Cuba as big as Florida? Hey, listen up here. The forest fighting ranger was called Smokey the Bear. I'm writing this song to have a little fun. Raise your awareness. If I build it, I know they will come. So what's causing this? Many want to know. Well, I don't think it's CERN. They're just a magic show. Satanists doing rituals while scamming mad dough. Sounds familiar like liars that always show us the globe. NAS, NIST, CERN, and more. We really need to show these corrupt agencies the door. I don't think this phenomenon is caused by man. I think it's a great awakening. Possibly God trying to contact us any way he can. For me, Flat Earth Mandela and our dreams are all connected. Looking to pull some people in that I can intersect with. Trying to wrap your head around it, it can be a hoot. Now Italy, it's no longer a standing boot. Shit, I'm hoping these changes might actually make me kinda cute. As crazy as this shit may seem to be, now Chewbacca has never been a Wookiee. It's time to look into this and get your dose of reality. Before you mock me and call me a fool, just remember, Lucy, you got some splaining to do.
Alright, so check this out, right? I don't know what CERN's been up to, but I'm pretty sure they're messing with my timeline. In my timeline, my baloney had a second name, and it wasn't the same as John Mayer's last name. In my timeline, it was the Berenstein Bears. I told my girlfriend, she was like, yeah, I know, who cares? In my timeline, I used to eat a Chick-fil-A all the time, and I remember if it was spelled with a K. In my timeline, it was Luke, I am your father, for a fact, and even James Earl Jones remembers that. In my timeline, Febreze was spelled with 2 E's and Vaseline with the O, because it was spelled like gasoline. In my timeline, there was 4 people in the car. When JFK was shot, now there's 6, that's bizarre. In my timeline, it was mirror, mirror on the wall. Now it's magic mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? In my timeline, the lion lays with the lamb. Now it's wolf, and apparently always has been. My memory is correct. It's not me, it's in me. It's the Mandela effect. Don't you find it strange? All the changes we claim are exactly the same. This is my discernment. CERN, so we should be concerned. This is not my timeline. My memory is correct. It's not me, it's in me. It's the Mandela effect. In my timeline, Morpheus said, what if I told you that everything you knew is a lie? In my timeline, there was most definitely a monocle on the Monopoly guy. In my timeline, it was Looney T-O-O-N-S. Now it's T-U-N-E-S, and that don't even make sense. In my timeline.
All right, everybody. Sandy, you there?
I'm here.
All right. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Dose of Reality. I'm here with Sandy Diva, and let me just bring the chat back up real quick. All right. Awesome. Awesome. So, Sandy, I went off for a little bit there about my personal experience. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. That was awesome. I kind of want to go look and see if I can find residue for you.
Well, if you do look, just be careful because there is also a Centerville, Massachusetts. So it's because I live in Lowell, Massachusetts. So when you do search Centerville, if you hit Massachusetts, you might find the city. There's a town way out west called Centerville, Massachusetts, spelled the way I remember. But the residue is the neighborhood within Lowell, Massachusetts. Centerville.
I understand. Like in Philadelphia, there's a lot of neighborhoods like Girard Estates, and so I understand what you're saying. I do.
Yeah. All right. Let me bring my notes back up to see what I was asking. How about?
Do you want to show the statue real quick?
Oh yeah, I do want to show the statue. Do you have it ready?
I already sent it to you.
Oh, okay. Hang on.
And it's a weird looking It's just weird looking. It's very, very phallic in nature. Even more so than the Washington Monument because of the bottom of the statue. And I drive past this statue every day. And it just...
Is it showing on the screen? Hang on. It's showing now, right? Full screen?
Yes, it is. Do you see that? Like, I don't get the circles at the bottom. It's really small there.
I have never seen this.
No.
That's how far from you?
That is about 5-10 minutes from my house. It's right on the Delaware River. And 1992 is written on the statue. So I think it's been up since 1992.
Oh, you know what? Let me lock it on the screen share because it's showing your default picture when you talk. Hang on. Yeah. No. So I've never heard of this. So this would be the one big personal one for you.
Yeah, that's the only thing locally that's changed that I've seen.
Did you see the chat? My buddy Derek in the chat was going nuts. He's like, apparently I don't know where I live because he's lived in. I'm actually from the other side of the city. I've lived in this neighborhood for a couple of years and various times, like throughout my 20s and whatnot. But I grew up on the other side of the city. Derek's lived in Centerville for a long time. I mean, he grew up in the Highlands too, but he's lived in Centerville for a while now. It's Centerville. Like, how do you even say Centerville if it's Centralville? Like, it doesn't even sound close to the same.
Actually, yeah, it does not at all. You're right. And you know what? Now that we're talking about this, there is something that I don't know if it's a Mandela effect, but it's something I never knew about Philadelphia.
What's that?
We're the mural capital of the United States, maybe even the world. We have so many. I do know there's a ton of murals here. They're practically everywhere. There's even Mandela effects in the murals. Like, remember I mentioned the eagle mascot of the 1984 Olympics? There's a mural of that with the striped hat. And I never knew that. I just found that out recently, that we're actually the mural capital of the United States. So I don't know if that's a change or if it's just a fact I never knew, but it could be. It could very well be a Mandela effect. I know many cities in the United States have murals all over their buildings and things like that. So just to hear that we have more than anyone else blew my mind. So that.
What do you think about some of the patterns that we look for? Like, I look for some patterns, right? And I have like two trains of thought here. Like, you see some patterns like, the double L's on people's names. The obvious ones like the word "the" and the word "s" coming and going as they please.
Yes.
The apostrophe that seems to pop in. The A's that look like upside down V's. But then the more and more I think about some of the patterns, or people say, oh, there's a pattern with this movie has this, and it's like, is it really a pattern, or is it really just permeating every friggin' facet of our life so much that no, it doesn't matter where you look. Like, for instance, like if you watch something like Jeopardy, you're going to find tons of residue. If you watch TV shows like The Big Bang and The Simpsons, you're going to find tons of residue. I one of my guilty pleasures, what I do in my spare time that I have always done for years, even before it was such an exploding market that it is now, is I've always listened to wrestling podcasts and just listened to them talk about old school wrestling. And nearly every episode I listen to, full of Mandela effect residue. You saw some of it in my intro with the New World Order, Hulk Hogan and these guys up there, and they're talking about the Monopoly Man and the monocle. Like, it's in every episode. Every episode, I hear it. It's like, it's everywhere. It's in every part of life. And obviously, if you go to church and you're aware of the Mandela effect and you hear them read scripture, I mean, the amount that it's in the Bible, it's everywhere. I don't know how much of it is patterns, or what do you feel? Do you feel there is a pattern to this? Or do you feel it's just so much everywhere that no, we're gonna look and we're gonna see a pattern. We're gonna make a pattern.
See, okay, here's my take on it. I'm not discounting it. There could be a pattern. I'm just not good with math. I'm not good with seeing things like that. And there are people that are good with seeing things like that, and there very well could be a pattern, but I don't see that pattern. And I would agree that just like looking at clouds in the sky, our brains try to see things where there aren't, where something doesn't exist. Like we'll see faces where there aren't faces, just because our brains are trying to make sense of the information. But that doesn't mean that there aren't patterns. I just don't see them myself. That's how I feel about it.
There is one pattern that I know you do see, because you've presented a lot of it, and that is merging letters, and we all see
definitely, but I don't see meaning behind it. I don't know what the meaning is. That's what I mean. Like, I see the things changing, and I do see that some of the letters are starting to look like 6s and 13s, 11s a lot, and I do see 1111 on the clock all the time. I also see 444 and 33 repeating numbers all the time. I see them everywhere, but I wouldn't even begin to like put together why. Like, what's the meaning behind it? Is there a meaning behind it? Do you understand what I'm saying? It's just,
I do.
My brain's not math inclined at all. And it really, when it comes down to it, it really comes down to math. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just not good at that.
Well, you are always on Brian McFarlane's show. Brian is definitely a friend of this show. I've been on Brian's a lot, especially when I first started doing videos. So I'm very grateful for Brian's channel.
Yes.
You are a huge contributor to that channel. And what are some of your favorite places to look for residue? And for people like that don't know, like, there's all sorts of places. It's not, watching other people's YouTube videos. It's also things like Reddit. It's things like newspapers.com. It's things like Twitter, things like Amazon. Where do you like to go? And I know there's going to be several, if not a dozen, but what are some of your favorite methods to look for residue when you find out there is a Mandela effect and you're going to look for something specific?
Okay, well, one, I'm going to credit Moneybag73 for. Like you mentioned Jeopardy, there's an archive, the Jeopardy archive, where every question ever asked and every answer ever provided is all on one website. There's so much residue there. I found the Wop Bop Baloo Bop Womp Bamboo Boom, which changed to Bomp Bomp.
What?
What is it?
I know what you're saying. I mean, it makes no sense the way you just said it. I didn't know about that change though. Yeah, Wop Bambo.
Bam Boom, right. It was Bam Boom, and now it's Bomp Bomp. If you listen to it. My stepson is a teenager, and he's even affected by that one. I played the song for him, and he's like, no. Like, he couldn't believe it, because it was Bam Boom. It was clear as day. He's imitating the sounds of the drums. It's Bam Boom. And now it's Bomp Bomp. Clear as day, he sings Bomp Bomp. And it was in Chicken Little. And the question was, like, what song was in Little Richard's song ends with Bam Boom. Like, it's actually in the question. So I love the Jeopardy archive, but it's very limited. Like, you can't look for specific things sometimes. Believe it or not, I actually use Google.
What do you mean by limited? What do you mean by limited? If you just said that it's got every question, do you mean by the search methods to look for answers?
It's limited in the search methods, and there's only like some effects there will be a ton of residue, and some will have no results whatsoever.
Okay.
So it's hit or miss. That's what I mean. It's hit or miss depending on what you're looking for.
And hasn't there been mixed as well? Hasn't there been answers to questions like Sally Fields and Sally Field be the correct answer on 2 different questions?
No, the responder will give the correct answer. We'll say Sally Fields, and then Alex Trebek will say it'll have a little footnote.
No, it's Field. Yeah.
Correcting them. Correct. Alex Trebek is correcting them. It's funny that it's a little footnote underneath of them, but it's usually Sally Fields. So that's actually one that's in there a lot. Is Sally Fields?
I know.
Also,
I know.
Christopher Reeves.
Oh yeah, Christopher Reeves, dude. Christopher Reeves, and for me, I don't, and I see a lot of the celebrity changes, the names. It's tons of them. And we could sit here and do a whole show on it, right? But we're not going to do that right now. There's so many. But for me, I don't. The name changes aren't like my top ones, and they're not like what I would use on people usually. But Christopher Reeves is in my top 10 of all Mandela effects because I was actually just going to do a Christopher Reeves video the other day. I was actually setting it up, and then I just got distracted, and I started doing one of the music ones. And I almost did it today too, but then I just kind of took a nap before we came on. But Christopher Reeves that's a huge one for me. It's huge. There's so much residue. There's so many articles also from different medical journals and stuff because of his condition where you go and read about them on these publications, and they're all Christopher Reeves.
Yeah. And if you're going to do a video on that, you can even go into the Superman and the Daily Planet, which is Daily Planet now. There's so many effects surrounding.
Oh, Daily Planet, Daily Bugle with Spider-Man instead of the Daily Bugle.
Yeah.
But yes, with around Christopher Reeves and Superman, it's crazy. The Superman versus Batman movie is now Superman v Batman.
Oh, God.
We've seen that in a few instances too, where the verse is just a V now. I can't remember exactly which other movies, but that is
Cat versus Dogs.
Yeah. Is that another one that's like that?
Yes, Cat versus Dogs is now Cat v Dogs now.
You know what the good thing about the Mandela effect, Sandy, and you probably feel the same way, is no matter what people are into, there is a category for everybody. So if you're into movies, not only movies, it doesn't even matter what type of movie. If you're into action movies, there's tons of Mandela. If you're into Disney, oh my God. If you're into cartoons, if you're into the Bible, if you just happen to go grocery shopping on the regular, I mean, there's almost as many changes in the grocery store as there are in the King James Bible.
Yeah, that's true. And that's another thing. Like, some people will think that if just because the group doesn't agree doesn't mean that it's not a change. Like, I have a huge, I can't believe I didn't say this one when you asked me about like Anchor Effects. Hanna-Barbera was Hanna-Barbera for me. It wasn't Hanna-Barbera, which is how it is now. It
has an E in there now?
It's ERA now instead of ARA.
No way. No, I didn't even know that one. That's ridiculous. It was always Barbera. It never had an E in there.
You remember it like I do? Because not many people do.
Oh my God! You're telling me there's an E in there instead of one of the A's in the last part of the word.
It's Hanna-Barbera now.
No,
And
I'm 100% with you. I don't even need to look at it. It did not have an E in there. There was no E in the whole word.
Well,
the whole
go
name.
back to Brian's streams because I presented a lot of good residue of the ARA, and I know it wasn't ERA because in Philadelphia there is a really big car dealership, and the tagline on the commercial is Barbera the best boy, I guess, and it's ERA Barbera and not Barbara, Hanna-Barbera. That's what it's always been, ARA for me. And
absolutely.
And I because I had that comparison, I know they were different, and now they're identical. But I don't even remember what we were talking about before. Oh, Christopher Reeves.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ways I look for residue. So what I do is what I found the most effective is I'm not using computers. I only have an iPhone and an iPad. And on an iPhone and an iPad, you have stunted versions of Google search. Like you don't get all the options that you would get on a computer. So I use this, I use a separate browser that you can download off the App Store. Any like third-party browser would work where you can view it as like a desktop version.
Yeah.
And when I do my searches, besides forcing it with like quotation marks,
Do you date them like I do and just go back and look and see what people were searching like before?
Well, no, what I do is I change the date. I say I don't want anything before 2008.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I've been doing lately too, because, and it's funny too, like, especially on word changes in the English language. So for instance, the word aggravated just changed for me. And now that E is an A in aggravated. Okay. There's no E. For me, it was AGGRE, and now that's an A. So for instance, with that word or some of these other word changes, what I would do, and this is probably exactly what you do, right? I would search the word, and if you search it now, you'll come back with all these things saying, oh, it's a misspelling for aggravated with all A's. Aggravated, 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 right? It's a misspelling, and common misspelling this, common misspelling that. But then I go and I put the search results from like 2000 to 2009, and the word aggravated, it comes back and searches in all different articles, even medical articles about aggravating your muscle tissue, and this is what you should do, like Dr. MD type articles on the web, all have the spelling I remember when you backdated. Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. And
it's perfect.
I think newspapers.com is a wonderful resource. I just don't have access to it. It's expensive. I think it's like,
I don't have it.
Yeah, it's just too much money. But I know, like,
we can rely on Nathaniel for that for us.
yes. And many people don't even realize they'll look for residue and they'll find. I didn't even realize this in the beginning, that Nathaniel Winters Hebert on Flickr is the Mandela Effect database. He puts all his finds in there, and there's so much that he gets from newspapers.com. It's amazing, and you see it on Scarab Performance on Mandela Monday. They look on newspapers.com while they're streaming, and you see all the changes that are there. It's like a treasure trove, but it's just too expensive. I can't afford it. So I would use that if I could.
About Nathaniel's site is Nathaniel's site is linked below every video I do. And if you guys go there and you're looking for a specific effect, the great thing about his site is not only does it have tons of residue, you can go and look at one effect in a folder, and in one click, you can download for free all the work he put in. You can download all the images for that one Mandela effect in one click and just save the folder. And boom, you have that residue. Or you can, in one click, share it to any social network. You can share that whole folder of residue in one click. Or you could share all his residue. Or you could share just one picture. Or you could download just one picture. It's pretty awesome. So back to you and what you like to look for residue. So you use Google. You like to backdate it.
Mm-hmm. And
what
then,
else do you like? Do you like Amazon? Do you like do you Reddit? What do you do?
I don't actually use any of them. What I end up using is from the search results. Like I will find, it usually takes me to other sources, like private websites. Like there's Gasoline Alley is a great resource. I found that by accident from a search result. It's just random websites of databases other people put together of their collectibles, of things like that, where all this residue has accumulated. And I think because they're not mainstream, that's why the residue remains. If it were mainstream, it may have disappeared or changed.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, it's pretty funny. How about when you come across things, and I know I do, you come across an article titled something like this, Andy: Top 50 movie misquotes of all time.
Oh yeah, I know. But here, wait. We just did a song change, and it was they were talking about misheard lyrics, right? And I was I know what it was. It was Bad Moon Rising. What was the change? The new change. But when I was a kid, I did mishear the lyrics. And apparently I'm not alone on mishearing this. This is like a common misheard lyric. But as a kid, I thought instead of "there's a bad moon on the rise," I was hearing "there's a bathroom on the right." And it was part of the website. But the part that changed was the actual lyric they were saying. So they were saying that the actual lyric was what we remember, even though it had changed. So it was in the misheard lyrics database. The misheard lyric had nothing to do with what had changed. What had changed, they were calling the actual lyric. So that was really good residue. I cannot remember for the life of me what the change that song is right now, though. Have you heard of that Mandela effect?
No, I don't think I have, or I might have heard of it. But you know how when you hear of a change in a song, and it's a song you're not familiar with, anyways, it's like there's, you don't really have any passion behind it because I wouldn't know either way. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
know about that song. You know what I mean? I mean, I heard of the song, but I wouldn't even know the lyrics if you know. I
Yeah.
don't know. How about on a personal level? Have you seen any people? You know how sometimes people say these people are just not the same people. Have you seen any people acting that differently in your life? Like something is like just totally up, other than the normal what we guess is normal, but the disconnect that people have.
Thankfully, I have not yet. Yet, let's hope not. I mean, that would probably be the most upsetting thing to me. Or if I were to see something, like I've heard some stories of people seeing things just, there's no other word for it, but completely supernatural. And I don't think my mind could handle that right now. I really don't think I could handle that at this moment in time. But thankfully, I haven't seen those things, because those things I think would be the most upsetting. That would make this incredibly hard, much more harder, if that makes any sense. Have
Oh,
you?
absolutely. No, I haven't. I haven't. I've heard people talk about it. I haven't. I have had a very strange thing happen though to my body as far as a body change, and I've talked about it before, kind of in depth, but it wasn't when my channel was a lot smaller and a lot of people probably didn't hear it.
Mm-hmm.
But have you had any body changes? This is your interview, so have you had anything with your body that's changed? Anything like that isn't normal to you all of a
Well,
sudden?
my pupil is kind of squarish on one side, which it looks weird. They were
Really?
round. Yeah, I have the dark circles around my irises. Like it's a darker green than the rest of my eye. And see, I'm not the person to ask about this because I have a I have a rare condition and like something that I never even heard of before the Mandela effect. So my body's not normal by any stretch of the means, any like compared to most people, because I have a condition where within 10 minutes of standing, my entire nervous system it's broken. It goes into overdrive, and like any automatic functions in your body, it's called dysautonomia or hyper postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So with that, while standing, while upright, my blood pressure, heart rate, breathing, sweating, any automatic process your body does goes into overdrive. And then when I'm laying down, everything's fine. It's so bizarre. And apparently you can get it from surgery, illness, or injuries.
So you
So
say you never heard of it before. Um, how many people are there that you have talked to that also suffer from this?
there's actually a lot, but not the hyper version. My version, the hyper version, I think a handful, maybe 10, 20 people. It's relatively rare compared to regular POTS. Regular dysautonomia is an umbrella term for many different nervous system type conditions, and at least that's how I understand it. I'm not a doctor. I'm not exactly sure, but that's how my neurologist explained it. And regular POTS is where within the whole standing up thing, the blood pressure drops. Everything slows down. You get low blood pressure, slowing of the heart rate. They tend to get the sensation that they're going to faint or they do faint. Whereas with me, everything goes into overdrive. It speeds up, which puts me at greater risk for heart attack, stroke, things like that. So I lay down a lot to make sure I don't tax my arteries and things like that more than I have to. And I may also have another rare condition, but I have heard of this one, Cushing's disease. They're still trying to test for it. It's really hard to get a positive test result in some patients for some reason. They don't know why. It's harder for some than others, but they really do think I have that, but they can't do anything unless I get a positive reading. So I have a lot of different things going on with my body. So I don't really see changes, but I can tell you that when I look at the skeleton, it looks wrong. Like the rib cage wasn't closed off like that. My kidneys were lower. Things like that.
Kidney was low, and now a kidney punch would be irrelevant to be an illegal move in boxing because it's protected now. It doesn't even make sense.
Exactly. So
the anatomy changes are huge because people can, even though we know you can't say it's a psyop, you will, but you know, because your own copies of Star Wars and these things will change, and these all this stuff has residue and changes in your house and whatnot. But how are you going to say that? And it's bad enough that people will think somebody's like sneaking around and changing all the tapes in your house or whatnot, but how do you explain when the anatomy under your skin changes as you live in your everyday life and still deny that something's happening? Like, that's crazy. If anything wakes somebody up, you would think it would be the anatomy changes.
Right. Well, with the iris thing, celebrities used to get contacts made where it would put the darker ring around the iris, because I guess in our past before this change, that's a symbol of youth. Children have that darker ring, and apparently that darker ring, I forget what it's called, it's got a name, it would disappear as you age. Like, it would actually fade. Like, it would become like how we remember the iris just being one color instead of having that ring around it. And celebrities would have contacts made to put that ring back because it makes people see you as more youthful. Now they don't need that because everybody's eyes has that ring again.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like if you look in the mirror right now, I guarantee you're going to have a darker ring around your iris than the color of your iris. So if your eyes are gray, it's going to be a darker gray. If your eyes are brown, it's going to be a deep brown on the edges. And with mine, I have hazel green eyes, green circling the lighter green in the center.
You know what has happened that has changed for me, and it's not one of these uniform changes that you see across a lot of the community, like say with the eyes and across the whole world, you know, the eyes and all the body changes. And I mentioned this because I noticed it. I noticed it happening in the middle of the summer last year, right when I was doing videos with Brian. I mentioned it on the show once or twice when people asked if you experienced any body changes. And that was the fact that I'm becoming left-handed. And I don't know why that is, but now everything I do, with the exception of write with a pen, which I never do anyways, I type stuff, everything I do with my left hand, to the point where several times at work and stuff, people have said to me, oh, you're left-handed? Oh, you're left-handed? You're left-handed? And now, just the other day, my boss said to me, same guy that said the Centralville sign and was all confused, he's seen me doing something, and I must have like picked something up with my right hand or something, and he goes to me, I thought you were left-handed. This was just the other day. I said, no, I'm right-handed. I just happen to do everything with my left hand now for some reason. Like everything. Like even like cutting things with a knife, like everything.
Wow, that's big too. That's a major change.
Not only, and it's not like I'm becoming ambidextrous. Like I feel more secure now with my left hand. Like for right now, if I was gonna just reach over with one hand and type, for instance, instead of two, real quick, I would do it with my left hand. If I was gonna go outside and smoke a blunt, I would do it with my left hand. Everything I'm doing with my left hand. Even counting money, I'm doing it with my left hand.
All right. Well, when I smoke, I do tend to smoke more with my left hand, but that's because
But it's always been my right. You know what I mean? I've always done it in my right. I would actually light it with the right because it was my right hand, you know, right-handed, and then I would switch and hold it the whole time and smoke with my right. But now it's with my left.
Well, see, but that's what I'm saying. Like my left hand is useless to me. Like I don't feel secure with it. It feels super weak. I can't even imagine that. That's a big change. Like if my left hand start getting stronger, that's huge. That's huge.
You know, the crazy part about it, Sandy, too, is I noticed, and this is going to sound crazy, but people that played with me on my baseball team, there might not be any of them listening in here right now, but my cousin probably listens to the show once in a while, and I'll pass this interview on to him because he was on the baseball team with me. I started a baseball team with all my friends. This is when I was 30. I'm 41 now, so this is 11 years ago, okay? People talk about the Mandela effect just being the last few years. Now, I know people are going to say, well, you know, things change when you get older, your body changes. But listen to what I'm saying. Like, played baseball a good portion of my life. I played soccer my whole life. I played baseball a good, 15 years of my life. I was pretty good at it. I was always a right-handed hitter, okay, all my whole life. I got up there, and I'm going to the batting cages before we start the season, and I'm having a, I'm not making contact when I feel like I'm just seeing the ball fine. My bat speed's fine, and I would get up there lefty, and all of a sudden and I'm not killing the ball. Like all of a sudden my contact, I'm just hitting everything, and it got to the point where like I would always get up there and do it lefty, and like I never thought about it again until now having this conversation, because I just forgot about it. I thought maybe like somehow something happened and I had a shoulder injury on my right shoulder at some point in my life, and then I went back to play baseball, and maybe I'm dropping my shoulder when I swing, and if I get up lefty my swing's level. Like I had all these reasons to justify it, but now I wonder, because now I'm doing everything left-handed, was that the start of me becoming lefty back then?
I don't know. That's crazy. I mean, they used to have like stories where, not stories, this was true. Like our parents' age, where they would force them to be right-handed in school. But I don't think they did that for our generation. I don't think that was done for our generation. You know what I'm saying?
You're not forced to be right-handed, but a lot of times when you're like trying to go to gym class and use a baseball glove, like you have to learn how to do a lot of things righty, because there just isn't the equipment for you all the time.
Yeah.
The way desks are set up to write on. Imagine those desks that are the one way, but you're lefty. You know what I'm talking about? They got the one piece to it, not the full desk.
Exactly. Yeah, but still, if you're left-handed, you still write with that. You still make do. You have to.
Yeah,
you can't write with your right hand. But what you're saying is this never happened during childhood. Like,
no, this happened to me at 30 years old, when after I stopped playing baseball for like 10 years. We set a team up together. We got all my old friends together. We had a pretty good team. Not saying we're like the best team in the world, just a men's league team, And when I'm trying to hit the baseball, I couldn't really hit it well righty, which people say, oh, you just got old, you suck now. No, I could hit it lefty fine, like all the time. Like I go to the batting cage and put it on the fastest speed and just keep smashing it lefty. But righty, I'm up there fucking striking out. And I'm a righty my whole life. Never even tried to bat lefty. And of course, everybody's tried it, like a couple times screwing around at the park, and it's all real awkward. It was always awkward for me. All of a sudden, I'm like a natural lefty hitter.
That's
at third.
crazy.
And then we only played baseball for like 2-3 years. Stopped the team, forgot about it. Mandela effect happened to me late 2014, early 2015. Then, as it accelerated the last few years a lot, it seems it's hit me a lot more. And I didn't really notice any body changes. People talk about the ringing in the ears and all these other things. I haven't really had that happen to me other than one night. But this lefty thing I noticed in the summertime, because I'm at work and I notice I'm doing it. And people commented to me. I have 2 jobs, at both jobs. People that don't know each other are commenting to me, oh, I didn't know you were lefty. And then after several months, they know that I'm lefty, or I guess, but even though I'm righty, but to them, I'm lefty. They see me doing something with my right here and there. They like yesterday or the other day, he's like, I thought you were lefty.
That's just crazy to me. And I've played baseball. I not like you, but I'm saying, like, I'm in the park and I'm like, I know what you're talking about, where it feels right when I'm batting to my right, and it would just feel so wrong batting lefty. Do you know what I'm saying? Well, you used to know what I'm saying. Now it's normal for you. That's just, oh wow, that's huge. That's a huge personal effect, I think. Like huge.
Huge, yeah, and I don't think I've talked about it enough, because it's a huge personal effect for me. Like, how do you, at 41 years old, all of a sudden, or maybe at 30 if it started with the baseball thing, but as far as my everyday life and using my left hand, it's literally everything I do now. All of a sudden, at the age of 40, like it happened, like, before I turned 41, all of a sudden at the age of 40, that happens, and I'm all of a sudden a lefty. That's not like all of a sudden you like chocolate and you never like chocolate, which would still be weird or whatever, right? But all of a sudden, I'm better with my left hand to do things accurately, like, than I am with my right hand. Like, that's crazy. It's not a matter of just getting used to it and becoming more ambidextrous, and you know what I mean, or becoming a switch hitter in baseball because you keep practicing it. No, I got up there one day, started hitting lefty because I was struggling righty, and I just started hitting the ball.
Well, that would fit with the timeline theory. That maybe you merged with a timeline where you were left-handed. That would actually.
Now I probably can't hit from either side of the plate, so maybe I'm in a third timeline. Well, maybe I just suck because I'm old. Can you give me 1 second? I have to grab a water.
Sure. When you come back, there was a question for you in the chat.
Sure. And if anybody else has questions in the chat, ask now because Sandy can look at the chat while I just grab a drink. I'll be right back.
Okay, so the question I saw was the blood type. So you don't have to write that one again. You're not invisible. Does anybody have any questions for Brian? Good night, Riley.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, I have a question now.
Okay.
Okay,
You have a question
so
for me?
we're going to start with your question because it's quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Richard is asking what your blood type is. I guess they have a theory around blood types.
Oh, and I know this is going to sound like a weak ass answer. I actually don't know.
I don't think most Americans do, to be honest.
No, I really don't know. I don't know. Next time I go to a doctor or something, I'll make sure I ask. I have no idea.
I know I'm O positive. I'm the universal donor. Well, one of them. No, O negative is the universal donor, but it's O positive is, I guess, the universal donor for people who have a positive RH. Barris Savis is asking me why I don't have videos on my channel. And the simple answer is I don't have a computer. It's not very easy to do things when you're limited to an iPhone or an iPad. Even uploading, videos, because you don't have the option to add music. You don't have the option to add thumbnails. It's exponentially harder to do solely from an iPhone.
Yeah, that's brutal, huh? I don't understand why you can't do that. That's what it, well, can't you go into YouTube and do the same thing you do with your browser and go to the desktop version? Go to your browser on your phone instead of the YouTube app. Go into the desktop version, and then you should be able to add a thumbnail, no?
I tried. It doesn't work.
Oh my god, that's terrible.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. Somebody in the chat, I think it was. Hold on, let me scroll up a little. I saw another question. Moon Freedom question for and if I miss any questions, Sandy, guys, wait for a second. Ask me. Oh, did you say you had a question for me, Sandy?
Oh no, you already answered it. It was the blood type. That's the
Oh,
only.
I thought you had one.
There might be more questions in the chat, but I didn't. You weren't gone long enough for me to scroll up and look and see if there's any more. That's all. No problem,
Okay.
Barris.
Question for Brian. Question for Brian. If someone they can mess with us, how can we get them back? By someone messing with us, I assume you're talking about somebody manipulating whatever to cause the Mandela effect. Is that what you mean? I don't believe that that's what's happening, in my opinion. I believe it's like a spiritual awakening, a collective consciousness thing. I do think they might be doing things to impede with our spiritual awakening, our connection, our frequency, like chemtrails and whatnot. I think those might be actually the real agenda for those things. But I don't think there is a they that's causing this, in my opinion. Sandy, what's your opinion on that? And I know these are just theories, and you don't always like to get into theories, but this is a different style show. It's not a residue show. So, what is, if you were to speculate? I mean, do you think there's a they? Do you think it's us? What do you think to that question?
I'm gonna try to. I have multiple theories, and I know you said you don't think CERN has anything to do with it, but there's
Well,
an art.
they might be putting. I do think they might be putting frequencies out that are interfering with us, but I don't think that they're doing the things that people think they're doing. Like as far as to the extent of it.
Okay,
But
so
go ahead.
I think. Okay. how can I start? I'm going to start with string theory. String theory has been around forever. It's one of the theories in actual science, and that would explain the multiple timelines merging and weaving in and out of each other. So we could be moving into one and out of one, and that can explain residue. Because if we move into a timeline and then back out again, and that could also explain residue that you have changing on you. Because I've had residue change where we're on Brian's show, and I say, I swear to God, that was different. Now it's changed, and you said
like
the same
that.
thing.
I told you. Yeah.
So I'm really leaning towards the string theory of multiple timelines weaving in and out of each other. But there's also something I came across a strange article. Many people in the community say that we were in the Sagittarius arm of the galaxy.
Yeah.
And now we're in the Orion Spur. And I'm going to be honest with you, I never really paid attention to that. I just knew we were in the Milky Way galaxy. I didn't know what arm we were on. And I'm just going to take people's word for it, what they remember. But I found an article. It just showed up again in my news feed out of nowhere. That's usually how that stuff happens. I find things looking for other things. I don't go looking. Things find me. There's a boat. First of all, before I go further, I know I'm all over the place. I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter. And by the way, it doesn't matter like what I believe. This is your interview. So
I
you know
understand,
what I mean?
but I need some backstory here. The first thing I heard about CERN was that they were creating miniature, like microscopic black holes in their collider. So this is what science is telling us is fact. Okay. Again, this could be made up. You never know.
What they're telling us, though. That's my
right. That a black hole is currently eating the Sagittarius arm of our galaxy.
Okay.
So let's pretend that CERN, doing their experiments, screwed up, and their microscopic black hole went out of control. And they actually found a way to help us switch timelines with their experiments. So there might be a they. And they made us switch a timeline where because of just events that happened naturally in history, that Earth ended up in a different part of the galaxy when the galaxy was forming, instead of in the Sagittarius arm, therefore saving us from the black hole. Because they've also the article also goes on to explain about how they can see other timelines. They can actually see other dimensions using, I don't know what I don't even want to say that. I don't want to say it wrong, but they can actually see proof that there's other dimensions. So let's pretend that they're seeing the other dimension with the Sagittarius. In this dimension, the Sagittarius arm is definitely being eaten by a black hole. So maybe we've been moved to be saved. So in that sense, there could be a they. But that's just one theory. My theory that I'm leaning towards is the string theory, where we are merging in and out of realities and different things change and go back, and that can explain flip-flops and residue changing and residue even existing. I really think that's what it is, and I don't think it is a they. I think that's just how life works. And we're just noticing it because we have the internet to talk to one another.
Exactly. That's the point I make to people. They say, oh, this started because of this. And no, this has been going on forever, in my opinion. And yes, two things have happened in the last several years. This has increased a lot. It's been accelerating. I believe that the awakening that we're in, and your string theory is very similar to my theory of our consciousness and the frequencies all merging. It's like almost the same thing. It's really very similar. It's a very similar thought process, I think, and I don't know. That's just I really resonate with what you're saying there. I kind of lost what I was going to say, but I lost track of what I was saying.
And just to be clear, it's not my string theory. I mean, it's my string theory with the Mandela effect, but string theory, so scientists, that's theirs.
well, again, the problem with and to be straight with everybody knows. This is not about what I believe, okay? But my thoughts on CERN are well out there. I don't think that science is proven, and I think it's absolute horse crap. But for what you were saying about the theory about being moved, like to save the Earth and the Sagittarius arm thing. But again, how would that explain incremental changes if indeed CERN did do that? If it was one shift.
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying. That's what I'm saying. That's just a separate theory that I used to have, but I'm now leaning towards the string theory because it fits with.
Yeah.
That's that.
With the flip flop. No, what you're saying is it makes sense with the flip flops and the incremental changes and everything.
Yeah, because I'm just seeing too much. I'm just seeing. I see flip flops now. There was a song, Hotel California. I was in the car, and I was listening to it, and it was always, this could be heaven or this could be hell, and it said and heaven and hell. How could it be heaven and hell? And I was freaking out. And by the time we presented it, it had flip flopped back to or. Yet we found residue of it saying and it was one of those like Green Needle or Yanni Laurel things where you were listening to it and it sounded like and, but then if you thought about it, it sounded like or. It was hard. So the fact that's what really got me thinking this has got to be like timelines merging and maybe even weaving in and out of each other because things are constantly fluid. They're constantly changing. And someone said to me and to other people that they think the Mandela effect was slowing down. And I'm like, you're nuts. It's speeding up. It's everywhere. Everywhere I look, I see something. And it may be really tiny. Like we just discussed Opposites Attract by Paul Abdul.
Why? What changed on that?
I
know that song.
The line "I take things serious" is now "I take thing." The S is gone. It may be as little as something as an S is gone, and now a word that used to be plural is now singular. But it's still a change that shouldn't exist. I take things serious doesn't make sense.
Everything, the change should not happen. If you know that it was one way and then all of a sudden it's another, even on your own copy in your house, this is what people need to understand. It's still a change. It's still a Mandela effect. It still proves that this is happening. And it's like, how many of these changes can people just deny? Because it's crazy because people try and say things, oh, I don't know about this, I don't know about that. Well, when I'm putting out Mandela effects about Star Wars, Back to the Future, Queen, Jewel, the Statue of Liberty, Mirror, something's got to resonate. Eventually, you're going to run out of excuses, and you know about one of these things. Like, come on. Like, I've never seen Star Wars, or I've never seen TV and heard about Ed McMahon. I wouldn't know, and I've never heard about the Statue of Liberty. Like, it's crazy the denial people will go into.
Yeah, and I really think it has to do with their mental state that they can't handle it. I really do. I think it boils down to that they just can't they cannot wrap their heads around that something is changing that should be static. Everything that we've been taught our whole lives is that you can't go back. It's forward. Everything what's written in stone is written in stone. You can't change it. So they can't wrap their heads around it. So instead, we're wrong. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, there's no other option for them. We have to be wrong because then their reality crumbles.
They go into the discussion with the foundation already set that no matter what, we're wrong. This can't happen. So it has to fit into some other reason to theirs. And when it really comes down to it, as absurd as they think that we are, what we're saying is nothing like their story of this Mandela burglar coming around in the middle of the night in everybody's house, switching out all our movies, bringing the Mandela surgeon with them, doing changes on our anatomy. They got a mechanic out there switching emblems on your car. Like, that's what would have to be going on and around the whole world at the same time. No, that's a little crazy.
It is crazy. But like I said, they just can't. I don't think they can handle it. I don't blame them. If someone's going to come at, like if they get, like, I don't know, with the update thing, some people get like hostile, like straight up hostile. And I just leave them alone. I don't even try. I just stop. You know what I'm saying? But if someone's even slightly open to it, I'll keep trying until they get to that hostile point. Like my spouse, he sees it. I know he sees it. He sees some changes. He remembers Chick-fil-A differently than I do, but he remembers it different than how it is now. He remembers it CHIK.
But at least it's different than how it is now. That's all that matters. That's an important thing too, because like people telling other Mandela effect people that they're wrong, like without like any reason, just no, you're just wrong. Like you should already know there's at least two realities. So
wait, let me interrupt you for a second. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
But
no, go ahead.
I used to be like that when I first learned about the Mandela effect because I didn't realize that. The way it was presented to me through Shane Dawson is that everybody remembers it the same way. So I'm like, well, that can't be it because I don't remember it that way. I know for a fact it was this way, the current reality. It wasn't until I started listening to the actual Mandela effect channels who were presenting it properly that made me realize, oh, it could be Doc Martens with 1A or Doc Martens with 2A. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It took me like a good month. So I was like that at first too. So even when people are like that, I try to explain to them how things are, that it could be multiple ways and you could still be affected. So maybe just in case they don't understand that, because they just may not understand it. It's not that they're being combative or they.
No. Oh no, of course. I understand that people only a few months in usually don't understand that. But I still see that behavior from people that have been around a year or two also, which is very, very disconcerting to me.
Yeah, I agree. I do. There are some people. I agree. I'm not saying there aren't people out there like that. I'm just saying there are also some people that are new to the effect that don't understand exactly how it actually works. Do you know what I'm saying? Because as much as what's that?
Do you want to hear a bombshell real quick? You might not have heard this, but this is going to shock some people in the chat. So, how we're talking about how, you know that it's one way for you always, and now it's another way. Well, that right there should tell you that there's two realities, obviously, because right now it's not the way you remember. So to just tell people you're wrong, they're wrong. But you know how we talk about there's ones that we don't all agree on, even though we're highly affected.
Yes.
There's actually huge ones, and there is one that. What if I told you? How about in quotations? You know the Matrix quote. Sandy, what if I told you I am a no, I am your father type of guy?
No.
Dead serious. And the thing is, not only am I a no, I am your father type of guy, this will just go to prove how honest we are about talking the Mandela effect. If you watch my intro, I put the residue for the Darth Vader, Luke, I am your father in my intro, even though for me it was never that, because I know that reality existed for everybody else as well. I've seen the residue. I've done the research. I've seen James Earl Jones say it out of his own mouth. I've seen Mark Hamill do it on Saturday Night Live. I've seen the toys. I know all the Tommy Boy clips, all the times it's been quoted. But honestly, for me, with that one, it always was, no, I am your father. But even though I'm not going to present that as a Mandela effect that affects me, I recognize how huge that is to people. I put it in my intro for you guys because somebody sent me some awesome residue for the Luke, I am your father with the figure. So I just wanted to tell people that. So I know that everybody else isn't wrong. Like, you guys have residue to back you up on that to the extreme, out of James Earl Jones' own mouth. But for some reason, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan, it's my favorite movie, ever seen it hundreds of times, somehow for me that was always, no, I am your father. And in fact, I used to hear, as crazy as this is, I used to hear kids when I was growing up say, Luke, I am your father, and I would correct them.
That's crazy. That's what I'm saying. You would correct them. I would do the same thing with Pennzoil because I live in Pennsylvania, and they were saying that it always had. I honestly don't even remember what the Mandela effect is anymore. Was it 2 ends or 1 end? I'm now like dual on it. That's the problem. I remember it both ways.
It was 1 and now it's 2.
And now it's 2. And I used to that's what I used to say. They say it's Pennsylvania. There's 2 ends. That's why it's 2 ends in Pennzoil. And now I'm like, well, wait a minute. Now I kind of remember it with the 1 end. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I remember it both ways now. And that happens to me a lot where I will remember it the current way. And then I start seeing residue. And now all of a sudden I'm either full blown, oh my God, it was that way. Or now I have a dual memory. I remember it both ways. But I was the same way with Pennzoil where I would be like, nope, no, you're wrong. I know you're wrong because it's Pennsylvania. It's always been two N's. And then all of a sudden people are showing the Liberty Bell with it spelled with one N. And it blew my mind. I've never seen Pennsylvania with one N. And there it is right on the Liberty Bell, which is in my city.
Wow.
Like I can walk and go see it myself, and it's one N, and I can't even wrap my head around that one. That one hurts my head so bad I can't even. But it might. I mean, it's literally in metal. It's essentially in stone.
It's like the stone monument that I told you about that my boss was reading off of, all confused because it said Centralville all of a sudden as we're in our own neighborhood.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So there you go. So there's another local one that it's one N now. Oh my gosh, my head.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
I have a question.
A lot of people. Go ahead. Yeah, questions. Let's get any questions from the chat, guys. Feel free.
That's what I'm reading you. A question from Teresa. Teresa's here. Hi, Teresa. She wanted to ask you if you were on the show. Did you see when we were on Dark Wolf's Den? Did you see about Peppermint Patty?
Yes, I did. I watched that show.
She wants to know if you're affected by it. If you remember Patty or if you remember Pattie.
Patty.
There you go, Teresa. He remembers it like you.
Patty. How has this? It's like, okay, I probably have an idea what you're gonna say because I think I just think I have an idea. But how has this affected you, like personally? Like, I know a lot of people look at it as a bad thing or a good thing. I look at it as a good thing. I think that we're chosen to see this. I think it's a good thing that's happening, and for me, it's made my boring life more exciting. Other people look at it as a dark thing. They look at it as satanic, or there's a lot of different views on it. How do you look at the Mandela effect overall and how it's affected your life?
Okay, so mine's a two-parter. Like the fact that everything's changing. I wish it would go back. There's some things like it because it is upsetting to me, and it does cause rifts in your family. You know what I'm saying? Like there are definitely negatives to it. Like, I'd fight with my mom. My mom would get upset. I don't want to make my mom upset. You know what I'm saying? I don't make my spouse upset talking about it. But I need to talk about it. This is life-changing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's something that needs to be talked about. So the positive for me is the community. Having people that I'm able to talk to about it. See the effects. See the residue more than anything. So that we can see what's changed and be reminded of how it was, that we're not crazy. It was like that all these people remember it just like we do. So there's like there are positives to it, and the positives outweigh the negatives for me. But there is a negative to it. Like, again, I would prefer that this didn't happen. There are changes that aren't good for me. Like I said, like I actually fight with my mom and with family members and friends that don't want to hear about it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they may even see the effects and they just don't care. They're indifferent to it, or they're just completely against it, or it scares them. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's all these reasons that make it negative. But I mean, this helped me a lot. Like I was in the hospital for 10 days. And it really helped get me through the night, like watching the videos and things like that, and just connecting with everybody who sees the changes lets me know that you get it's that old adage, you're not alone. You know what I'm saying? Because thank gosh for the internet.
These shows like this and other shows like Brian's show, like Dan's show, where people have a big chat and everybody can just come hang out. It's almost like group therapy for all of us to let us know we're not all crazy and shit.
It is. It completely is. That's exactly what it's like. Because, I mean, otherwise, well, first of all, I've heard of people who said they've been affected since like the 70s, the 80s. I don't know what they did. They were by themselves. Like I have an effect that I didn't know was a Mandela effect, but it is a Mandela effect for me. And it's a change to a song that's not an actual, it has to do with the singer. The singer changed. You know how you were asking me if I know any people that have changed? Well, I do.
Yeah.
I just don't know him personally. The singer who sings that song, Life is a Highway. Do you know that song?
Oh, life is a highway. I want to ride it all night long. Yeah, you could say I know it.
Yes, that song. So
If
when I
you're
heard,
going my way. All right, go ahead.
it's okay. So because actually you sing it more like I remember. It's not like that anymore. Huh?
Isn't it like Brian Adams? Isn't it Brian Adams that sings it? Who sings that?
No, but it's a guy that's you're leaning towards what I'm talking about here. So hold on. When the song came out, it was either when I was like a junior or senior in high school or right after high school, because I remember first hearing it with one of my best friends from high school. So, and I really haven't seen her since that time. And it was a very, like at the time when I first heard it, I thought it was John Cougar Mellencamp singing it, or John Mellencamp. He changed his name all the time. But it had a very hard rock sound. It was a rock sound. And his voice sounded deeper and more powerful. And then a few years later, I heard it on the radio, and I'm like, "Did this person redo it?" Like their voice was tinnier, and it sounded like more like a country twang to it. It didn't sound right. The sound of the song was off, and it's the same guy. There's been no change. It's the same song. There's no cover. It's the same song. It's the song changed. I
sing that all the time to my friend, because my friend's father, he looked exactly like that guy. So I used to sing that song to him whenever he walked in the house.
Yeah, well, see that so you have an anchor memory of that song too. Do you remember it being more like a rock song than it is now?
I'll have to listen to it again right now. Why don't you hang on a second? Let me bring it up.
Okay.
Can't play too much. You know the rules, but let me see if it's how I remember.
Just try to jump right to see if you can find the chorus, the Life is a Highway part.
From Rascal Flatts. I don't remember Rascal Flatts. Tom Cochran.
Oh, you just broke up crazy.
Is it Tom Cochran? I see Rascal Flatts, Tom Cochran.
It's Tom Cochran, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a world outside the dark and
you gotta hear the chorus. It's the chorus more than anything.
Yeah, but his voice sounds different.
It does, but it really you're gonna really see the change, hear the change.
All right, here it is.
Okay.
I used to love this. Oh, it's buffering on me. Sorry. Let me take it out of. I didn't make it fall.
There's even those high pitched notes in the music that are too high. There's something about it. I can't place my finger on it. It was just more rock sounding. It's a pop song now, Moon Freedom.
His voice already sounded different to me in the first verse. It's got like a little bit of a country guitar in the background, a little bit of wing, wing, wing.
Yeah, and you can hear his voice more. Yeah. Yeah, and
it didn't have that. It was more leaning towards alternative rock than country.
Right. Exactly. There's another song out. It doesn't sound right. And I thought it was a cover. It wasn't.
Too. It's like higher pitched right here on that second part of the chorus.
Yeah.
That's what I hear. That's crazy.
But I noticed that like 7-8 years ago, but there was no internet to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? So, and I just brushed it off because I just assumed it was a cover. You know?
No, that's actually him. That's the guy that looks just like my friend's father. I forgot his name, but I just thought I was looking at my friend's father singing, but his voice is all fucked up now.
I don't know if it's his voice. I think it's more the way I'm gonna use the timeline theory. Here we go. So in my original timeline, or the timeline I originally heard the song, they decided to go for a more rock sound, and in this one, they decided to go for a more pop country sound. So they just used different filters in the studio, which makes the voices sound differently. They highlighted more of the voice instead of the music.
The Mandela DJ studio.
Yeah, there you go.
He's up there mixing records before his boy comes down and switches everything.
But that's the thing with string theory. It's all about decisions. The minute a decision comes up where you have to make a choice, you see? So it can make an infinite amount of realities and timelines, and everything's weaving in and out of each other. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I understand.
So they were presented with a choice to go rock or country pop, and we're in the country pop one now. At least that's how I'm looking at it.
There's a ton of changes in music too. You know, we talked about how many there are in the Bible, the grocery store. The music has as much as anything. I mean, I've done I think 3 videos this week on music ones, and I did one video on. And if you guys don't know, all my shows are on the Dose of Reality list here. Every show, whether it's an interview like this, my other shows where we just talk about all new effects, or shows where we talk about whatever. I also have a short list, which is 1 effect per video, and they're shorter videos, like 20, 30 minutes, just breaking it down. I did like 3 music ones this week and 1 last week, and I plan on doing more. There's so many music ones, Sandy. For me, like when I was researching other topics coming into this, to unwind from those other topics, I really enjoyed researching the music ones. Like, who would have ever thought at 40 years old, or whoever it was when I started, 37, 38, I'd be researching shitty cover bands to do research.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd be doing any of this, so it's okay. I understand. Well, actually, you're talking about music. I don't want to bring it up because I want to check with Brian, but we just found 2 other songs that changed.
When are you guys doing a video next?
I don't know. That's up to Brian.
So everybody, Sandy is usually on. Make sure you guys get all subbed up right now, okay? So first of all, below this video, Sandy's YouTube channel is linked there. Her Twitter is linked there. And Brian McFarland's channel, which is always displayed on the right-hand side of my channel if you're on my homepage as a featured channel, it's also linked below. So make sure you sub Brian's channel. Very important, as Sandy, almost all her content is actually on Brian's channel. She's one of those people that has a YouTube account but uses it more to, you know, go on other people's channels and go in the chats and whatnot. Right, Sandy?
Oh, yeah, and also Twitter. My Mandela Effect Twitter account. I
Yep.
try to put a lot of stuff there, and I'm also in Teresa Lynch's Facebook group for those of you on Facebook. But
And what's the name of the group again for everybody? I know what it is.
It's Reality Residue Hunter with 3 exclamation points.
There you go. So that's where people can find you most often to talk about the Mandela effect with you and whatnot.
Absolutely.
What else did I want to? How about, you talked about your spouse? What about your kids, other people in your family life, besides people online? How has waking people up to this gone for you?
Well, I only have a stepson. I couldn't have kids. And my stepson is affected, but that goes into my theory that I was telling you earlier, where I think some changes were set in, like, they happen at specific times. He's only affected by some things and not others. And I've been asking people randomly, like, how old are you? When they say that they're not affected by something. And I would say half the time, maybe a little bit more than half the time, like 60% of the time, the ones that aren't affected by something that everybody seems to be affected by are younger.
Yep.
And really the only people physically in my life, like not just like I talk to on the phone or the internet, you know, is my spouse's sister and my one friend, Francine. Other than that, and like I said, my stepson, he sees some changes. My mom sees some but doesn't like to talk about it. My spouse sees some but doesn't like to talk about it. Gets upset talking about it. Like, not upset. He's one of those people that are just indifferent. Like, why do you even care? Like that. Like, okay, it's different. Great.
Yeah.
And that drives me crazy
That's
more than people fighting back.
so
Yeah, it's frustrating, right? Exactly. But other than that, it's really, in real life, there's only 2 people that I know of that actually see changes, and I don't see either one enough to, like, I need this community, and it really upsets me when this community fights. Like, I don't like the fighting at all, because we are a small group. There's not that many of us, and the last thing we need to be doing is dividing one another. in my opinion. In my opinion, we should be sticking together. We are all in the same boat here, you know?
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. That's always my message. I mean, me and Paul Knight, who's, if you guys don't know, he's on my show several times a week. Usually every Saturday we do a show, but we usually do it earlier in the day. You know, we are always talking about that. And to think that you're going to come into something like Mandela effect or any of the topics that you researched in the last few years that you've been, you know, you didn't know about, or other topics where you're deceived about something intentionally, to think that you guys are all going to agree on all these different facets of it, it's just absurd. Of course you're not, and there's so much you need to learn about each topic. We're all on the same side. In my opinion, it is a part of a great awakening, a consciousness shift, if you will, and I do believe that we are kind of chosen to see all this, or we are, at least, if not chosen, we are special in some ways to be able to see all this. We should definitely be all on the same side. We should not be bickering, not be fighting. Who gives a F about who found it first? If it's a Mandela effect to do with a, I mean, oh my God, the other day, Sandy, for instance, and this is the random YouTube commenter that said this, right? I decided that for my Mandela effect shortlist, and somebody had just given me a new Back to the Future Mandela effect, okay, and I put it in this video, and I still haven't seen anybody show it yet, so I do think it's new. And if it wasn't new and somebody else did a video, awesome for them. I didn't see their video, okay? So I saw this Mandela effect video, this new Mandela effect, but you know I don't do 3-minute videos on one effect. That's just not what I do. So I decided to do a Back to the Future video on all the effects in Back to the Future, including the new one. So I did about a 30-minute video, and I ran through the effects in chronological order. And I get this comment on my video that says, why don't you give credit to where you got this from? I said, who did I get this from? And he named the person, and the person is a friend of ours. And they don't even need to put their name out. I mean, it's a friend of ours in the community, somebody that does good research. And I'm like, first of all, I wrote in the comment, I said, I didn't get this off anybody. I said, I clearly state in every video, especially on old ones, like this is stuff that everybody's done Back to the Future videos. If I want to do one, I can do one too. Sorry, it's a big movie that keeps changing. Everybody's done videos. Even in the video, I gave credit to people. I said like Brian, like Moneybags that have done videos on this. And if you have done videos this and I haven't seen it, I know people have done this. This is big for me. My channel's fairly new. I'm doing one. And he says, oh, why don't you give credit to this girl? I go and look at the video she did. It was a minute long. And the effect in her Back to the Future video isn't even an effect that was in my video. Like, you can't even make a Back to the... And I said that after I came back, after I seen it. I'm like, I just watched your video, and that effect isn't even in my video. Oh, well, that's why you went and made a Back to the Future video. And I'm thinking, oh, so if I make a Star Wars video tomorrow, is that because Moneybags did one 10 months ago? No, it's because Star Wars is huge to every one of us, and I mean, it's crazy. That type of stuff drives me nuts. Okay, so just so you guys know, I am going to do a Wizard of Oz video. I am going to do, X, Y, and Z video. And I'm sorry, I have permission to do that. It's my channel. And if I get a new effect off somebody that just put it out like this week, of course I'm going to give them credit for it. But Jesus Christ, man, we're going to talk about these things that keep changing for the last 2 years. We're not going to sit here and write down a list and go dig up every video that's ever been made about Back to the Future, have a running tally. And I just thought it was crazy because the video he talked about was an effect that I didn't even address.
Yeah, that's insane. But like, I don't even know who found like Berenstein, Kit Kat, the original ones. You know what I'm talking? Like, I have no idea.
It's all of us. It affects all of us. They didn't write the book and then say, hey, my own book has changed. I wrote the Berenstein Bears and now it's staying. No, they're just people like us that saw it probably on it always goes to somebody else's channel, somebody else's website. It's word of mouth and it gets passed around. Yeah, there was an original person. Sure. Nobody knows who it is. It wasn't you. It wasn't me.
Yeah, like I was saying, what I'll do is I'll credit where I heard it from. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
If I heard it from Moneybags, like the Jeopardy archive, he may have heard it from Need Input, or he may have heard it from Recall Vector. But
you can't track all that down. We're not wasting our time tracking down who got it from who, got it from who, got it from who. We'll say the last person we saw it from. I mean, come on, man. I hate that stuff. I hate that stuff. The attitude some of the people have, that drives me really, really, really crazy. You know, before we wrap it up, because we will wrap it up soon, Sandy, one thing I wanted to ask you that we skipped over, and I know it affects you because it affects all of us that are highly affected. For me, the dilemma, okay, the English changing words,
dilemma for me. Separated, aggravated, definitely, cemetery. These words all don't exist the way I remember. What are some of the big word changes for you?
Can
Which
I
one's
tell you
really
something? A lot of them I'm not affected on, believe it or not.
Really?
I've always been like the top speller in my class. English and spelling,
Here we go.
vocabulary
Here we go.
were my thing. But there are some that have changed for me. Separately is one of them. And I just found a word recently. Oh, I can't remember what it is, but I have a different effect related to that. I really think it's a Mandela effect. I know technology inside and out. Like, I know you said you don't like Apple products, but I've always used them. Yeah. And I know how to, if you spell a word wrong on purpose over and over and over again, it's going to learn that and add it to the dictionary. So that way when you spell it, it doesn't keep changing it, you know? So, but if it starts to affect when you're typing up other things, you can go and delete the library, delete the directory, delete the dictionary in your iPad or iPhone, things like that. And I don't know what it is, but since 2012, I've deleted it. I've had different devices, and this still happens. I cannot make it stop happening. The word for turns into fur, like a fir tree. I'm getting feedback. I'm hearing the echo. You hear? Hold on, guys. One second. Brian's mic is out.
Okay. You hear me now?
Yes. And now I don't hear an echo.
Sorry, it's the Bluetooth headset or whatever. Wired to. I don't know. Because it's weird because I reset it. It shows it's connected, but even hitting the mute button, it's unresponsive. At least you guys can hear me now. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened.
It's okay. There's an affected by, and Moon Freedom put it in the chat. Mischievous. She said it changed here. Oh, I'm saying she, like I know. He or she said that it changed for them around 6th grade. Yeah, it changed for me too. People went from saying, actually, it's flip-flop.
Can you put it in the chat, Sandy, so I can read it? Because I don't have the spelling in front of me. I tried to scroll up, but I can't find it. Can you put the 2 spellings to show me in the chat so I can look at it with my eyes?
Yep, putting it now. Mischievous. versus, and they tell you it's wrong. Miss.
Oh, when I get auto-corrected, that's when I lose my shit. You know what I mean? I know I got auto-corrected on the separated is what happened. I got auto-corrected trying to write separating. And it was like 2 weeks ago, and I just knew right away. I went and made a video on it that night. I was like, this is ridiculous. And the residue is just like I told you. I do it the same way you do. I did the word change, but I did the date. I backdated it from like 2000 to 2009-ish, and it wasn't corrected. It was in all different articles. But if you do it, a current search, it keeps telling you it's a misspelling. It's a misspelling. And then, of course, there were all tons of other articles you could find. And it's crazy to me.
There's 3 changes with this one. Oh, I'm sorry. Autocorrect keeps changing it. That's why I'm taking so long. Okay, so the middle one is how it is now. I just put it in the chat.
I see.
And so it was mischievous.
Oh, no, I remember the last one.
So do I. Mischievous.
That without the I in the second one, that and the first one looks stupid. The second one with the I without the I in the ending is just crazy to me. But also on the third one, it seems like it has an extra I. I don't know about that second I, but it needs the third and the first for me.
All right. Well, the middle one is how it is now.
Yeah, that's wrong. That's crazy to me.
They used to say mischievous. VS. So there'd be an I after the V. You see? Mischievous.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm a girl. Okay. That's why I thought you were Moon Freedom, but I didn't want to assume.
Oh, yeah. I hate the thing with you. Me and Sandy were talking about it earlier because she sent me, I said, give me your links to put them in my show notes. She gave me her Twitter one, and I'm like, oh, I know this is you on Twitter. I follow you on Twitter, but I don't even know that it's her because everybody has different screen names. I cannot keep track of who's who. Like on Facebook, I can because everybody got pretty much their real name, and I just use my real name. Makes it real easy, but I know not everybody likes to do that. And Sandy's is easy to remember on YouTube. But on Twitter, what are you? Mandela Effect Residue Research? Is that the full name?
Yeah, and then it's at Residue Research, right? And my picture is Nelson Mandela. So yeah, you wouldn't, unless I told you, which I have told people in Twitter before, but if you missed those tweets, you wouldn't know it was me. Yeah,
it's impossible to keep track of. Yeah, so the English language ones they're pretty big for me too. Those are crazy. I don't know, Sandy, anything else you want to get into before we wrap it up? Because we're at 2.5 hours now.
Oh, my gosh. I didn't even realize we've been on that long.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm going to have to eat dinner soon, so.
Does the chat have any more questions before we go?
Yeah, any more questions, guys, before we go? And, Sandy, this has been really awesome, I thought, this interview. So I think people are really going to enjoy it. You had a good time?
I had a great time. I don't know why I was nervous. I was actually nervous for a little bit. Like, excited, but also nervous. Like, oh, gosh.
Oh, there's a couple of questions I always ask people too. Hang on. Let me just bring it up. Okay. 2 questions I want to ask before you go.
Sure.
What steps would you like to see people take?
In relation to what?
In relation to people that are already Mandela affected that are in the community, like as far as what would you like them to do? Be more vocal about it? Would you like them to have more discernment when putting stuff out as Mandela effects? I know you would like the fighting to stop. What type of like short-term goals do you think we need?
That is the most important thing. I think the community needs to work on. I'm noticing that the community is now like high school. There's cliques, there's groups. You're over here, you're over here, you're over here. Stay in your lane. No, we need to come together. We need to put differences aside. Say I'm sorry where it's needed, even if you don't mean it at this point. Like, we need to come together. Like, we have to work. This is something, we're already separated and divided from the people who don't see the effects. And some people, like the very religious, believe this has something to do with the end times and things like that. I don't know. Maybe it does. I don't know. It's not my theory, but it could be. I don't know any better than anyone else. But what I do know is the fighting is not helping things. It's making things so much worse. And we're fighting over the stupidest things, the littlest things. And I don't, oh, Richard just says sorry in the chat. But I really think that's the most important thing, is that we just need to put little differences aside and just get along again. We used to all get along, and now it's like, you can't go here, you can't say this, you can't talk to this one, you can't talk to that one. I'm fighting with this one. We can't trust this one. And it's just too much. I can't take that. I just think, we'd all be in a better place. It's important that we share these things. I don't know why it's important. I just know in my gut it's very important to get these things out there. Get this information out there to as many people as possible. And we can only do that if we work together. And that's how I feel. I'm sorry.
No, that's exactly how I feel too, and I feel about that in more than one community. The Mandela Effect community isn't even near the amount of infighting as some of the others, but I see it heading that way, and it's very, very disturbing. And as it grows more, unfortunately, we're going to see more of that. So that is what I hate to see that as well. And lastly, before we wrap it up, and everybody that's been listening, thank you guys. Make sure you sub Sandy's channel. Make sure you sub Brian McFarland's channel, as that's where she is on all the time presenting. Make sure you check out the video she did last night on Brian McFarland's channel. Excellent. Tons of new Mandela effects. And
can I interrupt you for one thing?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but someone in the chat said that they went to sub and I had no content, and that's when they asked why I have no content, because I don't have a computer. But if I find a way, I'm going to put videos up there. So if you do want to sub, and I do find a way, like I'm trying my hardest to find a way for Teresa and I to get some streaming done while Brian's on his little baby break. So I guess if you want to sub to see if I do put something up, that would be the reason. I'm sorry, Brian, go on.
No, I don't even know where I was, but it's fine. What I was going to say is for the last leaf. Oh, what I was going to say is make sure you sub her channel, Brian's channel, her Twitter, all that. Make sure you sub my backup. It's very important, guys. Everybody needs to be subbed to my backup because of YouTube issues, if you know what I mean. So please make sure you sub my backup channels. They're linked below. It doesn't matter if you're watching this on my main channel, Brian S. Staveley, or when I mirror it on my backup or on Facebook later. All these links will be in the show notes, Nathaniel's Flickr site, everything. Last thing I want to ask, and don't forget the Mandela Effect shortlist. Use that as a tool. Pick one that resonates with people. It's the second playlist on my page. But Sandy, lastly, why did you decide to come on and do this interview today?
Oh, because you asked me, number one, of course. And number two, because I thought this would be a lot of fun. And guess what? I was completely right. I just think it's, like I said, it's nice to... This plays into the part where we need to stop drawing lines in the sand of you're in this group and you're in this group and you're in this group. Let's just all talk with one another. And I think it was a great opportunity. So I said yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
No, thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up now because I got to go eat dinner. So I want to thank you so much again. I want to thank everybody in the chat. Again, guys, to reiterate, because somebody asked in the chat, I see John had it asked. Yes, Sandy is always on Brian McFarland's show. That is the best place to find her. I put the link in the chat. Others can help me out with that. And it's linked below the show in the show notes. And if you go to my channel on the homepage, Brian's channel is always linked on the right-hand side. So that's the best place to find Sandy. So everybody, thank you. You've been listening to My Awakening, episode 20 with Sandy Diva and hosted by Brian Staveley. This is Dose of Reality with Brian Staveley, and we are out of here, guys. Thank you and good night.